decide and act. We are IDA. Hi everyone, my name is Rika Pinham and I'm an undergraduate senior here at UTD. I'm the co-founder of IDA, which is a platform that empowers female founders and allows them to start and grow their businesses. And I was a big idea finalist last year, so I'm excited to share with you all the progress that we've made since then. So after the big last year, we were really inspired to launch an MVP and test the concept with real users, which is exactly what we did with our pilot. And since our pilot, we've gotten paying customers. So this year, we've gone from beta to revenue generating, which has been a really great milestone for us to cross. We've also launched a podcast this year. So if you're interested in podcasts, and you should definitely check it out because we're heading into our second season, which is releasing later this month, actually. So it's called Think IDA, and it's available wherever you get your podcasts. And this summer, we were also selected for the Launchpad Summer Fellowship, which was a great experience because we were able to connect with other student founders and get expert advice and lessons from these amazing CEOs and entrepreneurs. And it helped us reframe how we think about setting goals and milestones, and also allowed us to pivot our target audience. And this year, we've also grown our mentor network a lot, so both through UTD, the Venture Mentor Services Program, and our personal network of amazing people that help and guide our startups. So I'm really thankful for that. And we were also recognized this year, so I actually won Dallas Student Entrepreneur of the Year for IDA, which was an amazing recognition to know that the work we're doing has been noticed. And I'm very excited about where we are right now because we've grown from a team of 2 to 4 people to over 20 people that are currently working on building a mobile app to launch to our customers. So I'm very excited about that. And I can't wait to share that with everyone. So I'm looking forward to what's next for IDA and the progress we're making. Thank you so much, and thank you to UTD for creating these opportunities and inspiring this whole entrepreneurship journey.
Hey, I'm Amy, co-founder of Conley, a dating social hybrid designed for people who believe in person is the best way to gauge chemistry. Hey, I'm Amelia Novica, co-founder and CTO of Conley. I'm a senior pursuing a degree in business administration entrepreneurship at UTD. Since last year's competition, we've completed the final stages of our product development and we're planning to launch the app. However, COVID had pushed us back. Over this time, we've decided to pivot our business to be more social focused and to put more emphasis on our partnerships with businesses to better reward our users for going to their favorite places. Although the pandemic has been a delay we didn't anticipate, we believe that we will be in a strategically good position as soon as life starts all over again. Till that day comes, we have been and plan to continue partnering with local businesses, improving the product further, and within the next month plan to commit to a soft launch to start building our user base. We hope that Conley represents social businesses the opportunity to kickstart their business again and for people to start enjoying going out once more.
Neha Erwal bringing out, and she's presenting Kodart. Kodart.
Hi guys, I'm Neha and this is Sid. We completed our Masters in Computer Science in May 2020 from the Eric Johnson School of Engineering and Computer Science. We were part of the team Kodart that competed in the Big Idea Finals in 2019. It was an amazing experience that taught us so much. We took our learnings and pivoted to a machine learning startup called Federata soon afterwards in April. We took part in Blackstone's Launchpad Summer Startup Fellowship powered by Techstars, where we got access to the Techstars mentor network consisting of star mentors and investors, including VC funds. We received a funding grant of $5,000 as well as an 8-week schedule filled with talks and milestones where our mentors kept up on track and helped us execute our ideas. We were able to network with other inspiring startups as well. All this was possible because of the mentorship of our campus Blackstone cell and the knowledge and the confidence and the experience that we gained after competing at BIC.
We created a tech prototype and pitched that to people from the healthcare and retail sector. We created a lean canvas sheet and set up brand strategy based on exercises from Techstars. For customer discovery, we conducted outreach and reached out to over 50 data VPs and CTOs on LinkedIn for interviews. We ended up meeting over 15 people, including researchers and private equity analysts and product managers. We created brochures, websites, and marketing material, and executed content marketing strategy by publishing blog posts. We attended 2 premium conferences in the field of privacy and machine learning to keep up with developments in the field and network with researchers. In August, we entered a partnership with the Techstars Alumni company to solve a machine learning problem for them. And currently, we're competing in an online data science competition related to privacy and machine learning. We hope to keep up our momentum and continue making progress while gaining experience. This long and exciting journey was kicked off all thanks to the Big Idea competition. I'd advise everyone to stay motivated, which is the most important thing, and keep learning and keep working hard.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, I'm Anish Hegde, and this is Resume Puppy. Go get that dream job, and at Resume Puppy, we will ensure that happens. Thank you.
And first place goes to Resume Puppy.
Hi, I'm Anish Hegde. I'm one of the co-founders of Resume Puppy. I graduated from UT this year with a master's in computer science. We pitched Resume Puppy, a cloud solution to help people build targeted resumes at the Big Idea competition 2019 and won the first place since then. In Jan 2020, we launched our private beta, and June 2020, we launched our public beta. Once we launched publicly, just in about 3 months, we got 9,000 plus users, and over 15,000 resumes have been downloaded till date. We've had users come in from over 97 countries, majorly from the US and India. It's so exciting, and I'm so pumped to see how we're building Resume Puppy. My advice to anyone would be go out there, put something out there, and get feedback, and improve your product. That's the best way to get people to actually love what you're building. And also, please use Resume Puppy to build your resume, and follow us on LinkedIn and other social media and support us. Thank you.
Put your hands together for Mehmet Gunal with Access My Research.
Mehmet Gunal here, founder of Access My Research. Just defended my PhD in cognition and neuroscience about an hour ago. A huge relief. In last year's competition, I presented Access My Research, a non-profit social platform that aims to remove the barriers between academia, the public, and industry by connecting academic authors with the rest of our community and make research more accessible. We've been recognized as one of top 50 innovators in North Texas, given an On Fire badge by NTX Inno, and our website is currently being developed by 16 highly talented computer science seniors at UT Design. We're almost ready for our first release. My advice to new entrepreneurs, whatever your disrupting idea is, embedded with a good cause you're passionate about, aim for a social impact that matters to you. And just like that, you will see that people flock to your cause and give a hand to help you. No matter how 2020 was for you, I hope you will find inspiration from these startups competing today. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Amber Zelia, Creative Director and co-founder of Zelia Productions. As a proud alumna of UTD, we are excited to sponsor prizes for this year's Big Idea competition. All winners will receive an explainer video marketing package valued over $7,000, and all finalists will receive $1,000 in production cash towards your video production needs. Congratulations and go Comets! Whoosh!
Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2020 Big Idea Competition at the University of Texas at Dallas. I'm Paul Nichols, Executive Director of the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and this is not the O'Donnell Lecture Hall that we would normally be in. COVID has certainly forced us all to change our lives, but we don't let that stop us from growing and innovating. So in many ways, this will be our biggest Big Idea competition ever, with new and larger awards to help these company ideas get moving. We're also joined by our sister university, UT Southwestern, this year for the first time, and we're partnered with Capital Factory as part of Global Entrepreneurship Week. We'll be joined later by Mark Cuban as our keynote speaker. And thank you for joining us virtually. Now, none of this would be possible without the support of our friends and partners. The UTD Office of Research, Naveen Jindal School of Management, and Eric Johnson School of Engineering all support the Institute and our efforts of entrepreneurship and innovation across the entire UTD campus. Our strategic approach gives us a lot of capabilities for a young public university. In fact, the new National Princeton Review rankings on innovation and entrepreneurship were just released 2 days ago, and UTD is now number 10 in the country for graduate degree programs, number 18 for undergraduate, and in the top 15 for public universities. So congratulations, everyone. And a big thank you to our sponsors, Chuck and Stacy Butler of Palomino Capital, Silicon Valley Bank, Zelia Productions, and the Blackstone Launchpad and Techstars. Today, we're here to celebrate the entrepreneurial mindset and to remind ourselves of some important lessons from this year. That solving problems requires people of different backgrounds to work together on a common goal. That leadership really matters, and that science paves the road to the future. And when the world turns upside down and the old ways of doing things no longer works, the only way forward is to innovate. So now I am excited to welcome the presenting sponsor of the Big Idea competition, Lyda Hill Philanthropies, and Miss Lyda Hill herself to help us open the show. Lyda Hill is a Dallas area entrepreneur, philanthropist, and the only single woman to make the 2013 philanthropy list of most generous donors. She currently serves as president of LH Capital and is the namesake of Lyda Hill Philanthropies, dedicated to making transformational advances in nature and science research and improving local communities. As part of her desire to leave a lasting mark on society, Ms. Hill became a member of the Giving Pledge in 2010 and has pledged to donate the entirety of her wealth to charity. She is the recipient of numerous awards and honors, including the prestigious President's Volunteer Action Award, and an appointment to President Reagan's Advisory Council on private sector initiatives for her project, The Volunteer Connection, the Lins Award, and the YPO Global Impact Award. We're delighted to have her with us for the 2020 Big Idea competition, so please join me in welcoming Miss Lyda Hill.
I am so pleased to join you at the 2020 Big Idea competition. The Big Idea competition is exciting for North Texas. At Lyda Hill Philanthropies, we believe that science is the answer to many of challenges faced by society. We believe in North Texas innovation, and we see our region as a terrific source for some of these scientific answers. That's because we do things a little bit differently here in North Texas. We're not afraid to take risks. We often say that Texas is the third coast. Oh yeah, we've got San Francisco, we've got Cambridge, but we have our own skill set, our own background, our own characteristics and talent. We start and lead amazing companies. We think about innovation a lot at our office and are constantly looking for the best opportunities to cultivate a culture of innovation in North Texas. The Biotech Plus Hub at Pegasus Park is one of those opportunities. When it opens in 2021, it will be a dynamic ecosystem that promotes collaboration, creativity, and entrepreneurship. Pegasus Park will be a centerpiece of life science and healthcare community in Dallas, combining space, education, mentorship, funding, and partnerships. We learned from local universities that they wanted in on the fun too. And that's one reason that this groundbreaking project is not only focused on pharmaceuticals. It will welcome innovators from all corners of life science to detect, treat, and prevent diseases and promote health and wellness. You may have heard the news recently that we welcome startup lab operator BioLabs to Pegasus Park campus. If you need lab space or office space, please contact them. Their decision to choose Dallas in the middle of the country as their first location is significant for both Dallas, this area, the city, and actually for the state. We are thrilled to support pitch competitions like the Big Ideas competition because it helps provide much needed capital for startups to grow their businesses. Good luck to all of you, and we are sure we'll be seeing you at Pegasus Park.
Thank you very much, Lyda. Now I would like to introduce the host of this year's Big Idea competition, R.A. Session. Mr. Session is the president, CEO, and founder of Taysha Gene Therapies. He has nearly 20 years' experience in the life sciences industry, primarily in business development, corporate strategy, and financial roles. This afternoon, he joins us as the host and MC of the BIC, so please welcome R.A. Session.
Thank you, Paul. I'm so excited to be here for the host of the Big Idea competition this year. We're about to begin the student track of the competitions. Students will be competing for $10,000 in Amazon Web Services credits, as well as a video marketing package from Zelia Productions, and $25,000 for their startup. Now let's meet the judges. Jason Santamaria is the Managing Director in Portfolio Operations at Blackstone Group. Jason held a number of senior leadership roles and has served as an artillery officer in the United States Marine Corps. Abe Minakar is the Chief Investment Officer and founding partner of Legacy Knight, providing exclusive investment access and tailored advisory services to ultra-high net worth families and family offices. Prior to Legacy Knight, Abe managed a portfolio of investments at Mark Cuban companies. Ellie Bruno is the Managing Director of Techstars and Western Unit Accelerators. Ellie has been the founder and startup operator for over 19 years. Her experience is in consumer tech, specifically revenue and growth. Ellie has been an angel investor and advisor since 2015, with a focus on investing in female-founded companies. Michelle Gordon is a 13-time serial entrepreneur and best-selling author who has created industries and tens of billions of dollars in wealth. And excuse me, I think I got the name wrong. Michael has founded and led industry-changing companies, including Internet Global and Teladoc. Michael's also proud UT Dallas alumni. Cheryl Campos is the head of venture growth and partnerships at Republic, where she's focused on introducing underrepresented founders to alternative funding sources in order to help their startups thrive. She is also a scout for Lightspeed and investment partner at the Community Fund. Welcome, judges. Forgive me for getting some of the names wrong, but welcome anyway. And thank you for being here. Are you ready to see what the students have to offer?
Yeah. Can't wait.
Awesome. So first up in the student track and a finalist to pitch is Akshat Sharma with Realos.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mario Flores, and this is my co-founder, Akshat. Our company is Realos Technologies, and this is what we're doing in the real estate industry.
So before we start, we would really like to tell you what we've achieved so far. We have 3 letters of intents from Quinn Associates, Lawson Group, and Mercer & Co. These are some of the most prominent firms in the Dallas area. We've also raised $35,000 for our seed round. We formed the Realos Technologies LLC, and right now we're in beta testing partnership with Epi Halliday and Oakman Realty, just to see how our product works in the real world. We also have interest from the National Association of Realtors Venture Capitalist Group. We've demoed our product with them, and they really like it.
So in real estate, transactions require a lot of administrative work, such as simple data entry, documentation, and accounting work. An agent can spend up to 55% of their work week just doing this work. And with error rates as high as 30%, that can cost a real estate firm time and money. And it doesn't allow the agents to provide the best consumer experience to the buyers and sellers they represent. According to Forbes, 33% of consumers had an emotional breakdown during the process, and 40% described the overall process as the most stressful event in modern life.
This is where Realos comes in. We use intelligent bots to automate compliance, documentation, and accounting for your firm. We use robotic process automation to create these bots that can then come on your computer and automate all of the redundant tasks that you would usually do. This frees up your time to focus on tasks that add more value to your business, such as helping existing clients have a better consumer experience and getting more clients for your firms. With our studies, we've seen that we can reduce the time spent on administrative tasks by half, and we can also reduce the error rates to just 5%. This is a demo of our product. In this demo, as you can see, the user is actually logging into the Realos dashboard and is automating the document filling process. The bot warms up and now starts running. As soon as the bot starts running, it can take data from different data sources that you might have, such as your Excel files or your databases. Not only can we fill out this form, but we can fill out any other form that your firm is working with. And real estate has hundreds and hundreds of forms. We can also automate your CRM softwares and your accounting softwares. More importantly, if your buyer and seller forget to sign anything, or if there's any information that's missing in these forms that is incorrect, our bots will know that and will actually mark those fields. This document then will be sent back to the real estate agent through email. So the agent exactly knows what went wrong and where it went wrong. And this makes compliance a breeze. This is just one of the ways how Realos can help you.
So our business model is a B2B subscription-based model, and we plan on charging $50 per agent per month. And at any given time, a firm can increase and decrease the amount of bots depending on business influx.
The market size that we're going after. There are 180,000 firms in the US and 1.2 million active agents. In Texas, there are 47,000 firms and 154,000 active agents. Initially, we just want to serve the Texas market and create a stronghold in Texas. But this is the market size that we're going after. If we can get 3.5% of the Texas market in the next 3 years, we can make more than $3 million in annual recurring revenue. And this is just the Texas market. Imagine if we can expand to all the other states in America. Think about how many firms we can help and how many people we can help with Realos.
So we have two types of competition, one on the outsourcing side and one on the automation tool side. In the outsourcing side, companies like MyOutDesk and Transactly, they provide an affordable solution by outsourcing this work to third parties in and out the US. But it doesn't solve the human error problem, and that can cause delays within the actual transaction. On the automation tool side, companies like UiPath and Automation Anywhere, well, they provide an automation tool, but that can come at a large cost within the initial setup itself and the long-term cost of maintenance in the back end. In the future, we have expansion opportunities across the entire real estate ecosystem with title companies, mortgage lenders, and insurance companies. These industries, they face very similar problems with administrative work and high error rates, causing delays within the actual transaction. But by automating their backends, we can speed up the entire real estate transaction process. So this is Grant. He owns a real estate company, and he can't wait to stop doing paperwork with Realos. Grant is smart, so be like Grant. And here's Matt. Here's what he has to say about Realos. And then here's a team. It's consisting of me and Akshat. Akshat, a certified advanced RPA developer. Me, with 8+ years of experience in real estate. Then we have Tonsen and Femi. Tonsen, working with companies like Racetrack, Walmart, Citibank, and he's currently the Senior VP at Synchrony Bank. And then we have Femi, a serial entrepreneur whose companies do over $1 million in revenue.
Thank you so much for your time. And with Realos, let's make real estate real easy.
Judges, do you guys have any questions?
Yes. Can you tell us more about your pricing strategy? How do you come up with $50 a month? And it seems if your product can do all of these services, you should be able to charge more. And have you considered a tiered pricing system?
So essentially, this was done based on the resource that we have and based on the return on investment that we give right now. So we're definitely thinking of increasing and creating a tiered plan so that we can include more smaller firms to be part of the Realos platform, and as well as tackle more bigger firms. But right now, this was the resource that we got and the return of investment that we can give to these firms, and that's why we're charging $50.
I have a follow-on question in regards to your pricing structure. Why did you guys choose to go with a SaaS user model versus a per use case model?
So essentially, real estate agents per se, they wouldn't want to spend $50 on their own, but the companies, they really want to make their agents more efficient and really want to make the company's operations more efficient. And that is why we went on this platform. And essentially, real estate, we're going after residential real estate. And the processes in residential real estate are very similar. So that's why we didn't go for a per use case. Once we expand to commercial real estate, we can definitely go per use case in our pricing strategy.
Piggybacking off of that, can you talk a little bit about your competitors? Because I know you kind of went through that quick, but in terms of just your pricing and how you think you stack up, I understand affordable is fine, but just how different is it?
So essentially, if you're talking about technological competitors, so UiPath and Automation Anywhere, they provide you with the tool, right? So they provide you with an automation tool, but you have to hire your own IT team and develop on top of those tools. So that requires a lot of time and a lot of money from your end, right? But our solution, it's a pre-built solution, and we can integrate directly to your to your company. And on the other hand, we have companies like Transactly and MyOutDesk. What they're doing is that they're outsourcing these administrative work to people in India or people in other countries. So essentially, that doesn't solve the human error problem because these people can still make those errors, and the consumer experience is still bad. So with Realos, what we're doing is that we're automating that process and creating a much more efficient and a much cheaper alternative to all of these products out there.
How long was the sales process for the clients you brought in? Or were they friends? How did you get them? And then what does it look like moving forward after those initial clients?
So essentially, I mean, we just cold call a lot of people, and being students, they gave us this chance to showcase our product to them, and that's how we got the initial sales. Honestly, it wasn't really a long time for the sales cycle because we just showed them the product and they were really interested, and we got a good feedback from them. So they immediately went ahead and wanted to demo the product with them and actually see how it would work in their firms. And future right now in this next year, we really want to focus on the firms that we already have, the clients that we already have, and demo our product with them so that we have an enterprise ready solution by the end of next year, which we can then use our marketing strategies to expand our solution to other firms.
And do you have any tangible client success stories where you've reduced non-value added activity by a certain number of hours or improved defect rates, et cetera? I think that would certainly help you with your pricing strategy and then selling on to other potential customers.
Yeah, I mean, so right now we demo the product with them, and we've actually, I mean, we went to different real estate agents in these firms. So for example, we went to an agent in Abbey Halliday, and we actually showed the product to him and used that as a use case to actually go to the Abbey Halliday CEO and just show him that, hey, this is how much time we can save you. And in the future, once we demo with them, we can get tangible data as to how much hours we're saving and how many error rates that we can bring down on the firms, and that really helps us.
And
okay, judges, one additional question.
I have one final question around that. What's your accuracy rate with the product?
So right now, I mean, our accuracy rate, we can bring down the error rates to 5%. Right now, it's like 30% or above, but we can bring that down to 5%. In the future, we want to really invest in machine learning and artificial intelligence infrastructure, and that would allow us to even bring that error rates to 0.11% or something like that.
But in beta, you've seen only a 5% inaccuracy rate.
So from 30%, we brought it down to 5%, yes.
Okay. Great.
Awesome. So that's all the time that we have for questions for Realos. So thank you. You did a fantastic job. So judges.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Well done. So judges, please take a minute to fill out your scorecard. Once you finalize your scorecard, next up, we'll have Campus 7.
Hey everyone, I'm Rohit, the CEO of Camp 7. Camp 7 really came about from a problem that my co-founders and I faced on our college campus, which is that frankly, the college food experience sucks. First off, the prices of food are way higher than what they should be. You have to wait in line for half an hour to get your meals during peak times, and the food is pretty unhealthy. So think about, your burgers and fries at the dining hall. And the main reason why the food experience is so bad is because colleges contract out all their food work to large corporations who sign very long-term contracts and run monopolies on that campus. So their incentive really is to make food for as cheap as possible and then charge students as much as they can without catering towards their needs. We want to disrupt the system and provide students with what they really want. Delicious, healthy meals, make it convenient, and do it all for affordable prices. The solution we've currently built is students subscribe to a meal plan where they select meals off of our healthy rotating menu according to their dietary needs. And then we aggregate all the orders coming off of a college campus. We send it to our chefs who work out of ghost kitchens, and then the chefs bulk prepare all the meals on one day of the week. We then deliver the meals fresh from the kitchen to the students. Now, before you think that this is just another food delivery company, I'd like to highlight two things that really make us unique and innovative. The first thing is that we've built technology to aggregate orders and send it to chefs in real time. This means we're not like traditional food delivery companies like Uber Eats or DoorDash who do one-off deliveries from one restaurant to one student. Instead, we use the principle that thousands of students live within a 1-mile radius of campus, and so by aggregating orders, we're able to cut down on delivery costs for everybody. The second unique thing is that instead of partnering with restaurants, we've built relationships with chefs, and we partner with chefs like Chef Dwayne here, who works out of ghost kitchens. This model is cheaper for us because we don't have to pay for all the additional overhead costs that restaurants charge. That being said, we do have a lot of competition in the space. I've already touched on why we're better than college campuses and food delivery companies like DoorDash. But the next competitor type is your companies like Freshly, who cook meals out of a kitchen somewhere in the US, and then they cross-country ship them to your door. The problem with this model is that the meals aren't as fresh, and they're more expensive because they have to be shipped cross-country. And the next competitor type is your meal kit delivery services like Blue Apron. But with these, you have to cook the meals yourself, which defeats the convenience aspect, and they're more expensive. So one common thread I like to highlight among all of these people is that nobody really focuses on the college market. We are building a company that caters towards the needs of the college student and are grabbing market share in this pretty unsaturated market that's worth $60 billion per year. We started the company in February, and in just 4 months of operation, we've already delivered 1,500 meals across both UTD and SMU. We've done over 13,000 in revenue, and we've netted a 20% profit per order. In fact, if we delivered just 30 meals a week, we would already be at break even. Students love what we're building. They love the fact that it's built by students, that we work with local chefs and local businesses, that we're really solving a problem that they face every day. And so we're really picking up steam at both campuses that we're currently at. And we don't want to just stop there. Our vision for the company is to first expand to more college campuses. We're already at UTD and SMU, but we plan to be in all major Texas colleges by the end of next year. And from there, we can build additional revenue streams. The first one is advertising. By delivering meals to college students' doors every week and being a trusted brand, we can become a direct pipeline to advertisers like Airbnb and Robinhood, who would love to access this market segment before they start their working lives. And additionally, we can expand the same aggregation model to apartment complexes and neighborhoods where there are many people who live close to each other. And so we're really excited about the future of the company. And obviously, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without the incredible team I've been able to work with. Logan, our CTO, is currently a tech consultant at Kodart, and he's developed our website, our apps, and our backend automation solutions. Benny, our CMO, founded the largest marketing organization on campus called Comet Marketing before Campus 7, and his consumer marketing skills have helped us tremendously boost our revenue. Yash, our COO, is an investment banking analyst at JP Morgan, and he built a consulting organization that has consulted for many nonprofits like Salvation Army and EarthX, and he helped build the logistics backbone that runs the company today. Before Campus 7, I co-founded a food tech startup called Fix Food that delivered groceries in over 20 states, and so I was able to carry over a lot of the food tech experience to Campus 7. And then before that, I worked as a software engineer at a hedge fund and as a consultant at Bain & Company. Our advisors include a partner at Bain, founders who have raised multiple rounds of financing, who have exited startups, who have built marketplaces, and who have extensive experience in the food industry. They have been invaluable to grow the company as quickly as we have, and have been crucial to our scale. The last thing I'll leave you with is that we started this company before COVID hit because we thought this was a big problem. And now with COVID boosting food delivery, we think this is the perfect time to scale Campus 7 and really shape the future of the college food market. Thank you.
Great job. Judges, any questions for Rohit?
Yeah, I have a question on the food. So the pictures we saw are, looks like you have salads and some sandwiches. Do you also, so can you give us an idea of just how broad your menu is?
Yeah, no, definitely. So our menu is pretty broad. Every week we have about 10 to 15 meals, and then we rotate a lot of the meals every week. And the meals, you saw the pictures of salads and sandwiches, maybe a poor choice, but they're pretty filling meals. We have vegan, non-vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, a lot of different varieties, and yeah, no, they're pretty filling.
Rohit, I imagine there's some seasonality in your business, seeing as it's college campuses. How do you solve for that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Because like you mentioned, college campuses are only active for like 30 weeks out of the year. So that's really when when we're in operation and when we're active. But that being said, in the future, as we kind of expand out to adjacent markets, I think we'll be more operational over 50 weeks.
So how expensive is it to get this thing nationwide? Have you kind of done an analysis of what you'll have to raise?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for Texas alone, so I guess our timeline right now is we want to scale up operations at UTD and SMU. And then after we prove that, we want to raise a seed round of about $500K and then expand out to other Texas schools, so Houston and Austin. And then from there, if those are successful, we'll go and do a Series A and try to expand national.
And so what will be your valuation on that first round, that seed round?
So the first round, we're planning on raising $500K for $5 million at a valuation of $5 million. So $500K for 10%.
Okay, got it.
And can you talk about the specifics of scaling your operations, whether that's within existing service providers in the greater Dallas area and then across Texas? How do you think about scaling your operations within the state and then even further beyond?
Yeah. So Dallas is pretty easy because we're already in Dallas and we have the logistics kind of figured out. But as we kind of go to other cities and other campuses, we're going to adopt kind of a franchising strategy where we'll appoint a campus director and kind of campus ambassadors underneath the campus director. And let's use Austin as an example. So we'll go out to Austin, be there for about 2 to 3 weeks to negotiate contracts with chefs, to set up the initial marketing and logistics. And then from there on, we'll manage the team in Austin remotely from Dallas. And we'll be in constant communication with the campus director. This model has been applied for other kind of like college startups. I don't know if you've heard of like Snack Pass or Good Uncle, but they've kind of adopted the same model. So it'll just be kind of copy paste and execute well.
And how are you marketing? What's your marketing strategy on campus right now?
Yeah, so our marketing strategies actually changed a bunch. We tried a lot of different channels. So we tried, just traditional flyering, bannering, ambassador programs, social media marketing. And what we've actually found to be the best route is, we're doing this at SMU currently, is we use frats and sororities as an entry point. And so by doing that, frats and sororities, they're pretty active on social life. They're usually the early trendsetters on college campuses. And on top of that, they usually have a lot of problems with their chefs. They have to hire and manage them. They don't get meals on weekends because chefs don't work on weekends. And so we're able to partner with frats and sororities directly. And we only have to make a sale to one person to then get 100 different members in that frat and sorority to buy meals from us. And the meals are free for the members because the organization pays for it. So that's a really great entry point that we found that we'll be kind of like replicating across campuses.
So what does that make your acquisition costs today?
Yeah, so our acquisition costs per customer are under $10 for all the different channels. So flyering, ambassador programs, and with the frats and sororities, I feel like that's a little bit hard to really put a number to, just because it's talking to the president and like getting them to sign up.
Yeah, attribution is rough. Sorry, just quickly on that.
Yeah.
And, what's your average lifetime value of your customer?
Lifetime value per year?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so on average, a customer pays or spends about $1,000 on food. And out of that, we make about 15% profit. So every year, it's around $150.
Awesome. And then one last thing. So this is very operationally, I think, heavy at some point, right? Like you have to build a foundation, and then as it goes along, it kind of scales, right? So I think my question here is, will you be the one that's focused on kind of building it out, or will you be bringing on someone more on the operation side? Like, how are you thinking about the team and growth?
Yeah. So, I guess fundamentally, we're 4 college students, and as we kind of grow and scale and adopt this franchising model, I think we'll have to bring in people who are experienced in franchising and who are experienced in logistics to come on board and kind of help us with the process. And so in terms of people that we're going to hire in the future, it's going to be software engineers, people on the operations side, and people on the sales side.
Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to leave it there. That's all the time that we have for questions for Rohit, but great job, Rohit. Did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Next up, we're going to have Jacob and Hubba from Glaucoma.
Hey, I'm Jacob,
Hi, I'm Hava, and we are Glaucoma,
a team developing an umbrella of ophthalmic products for patients suffering from glaucoma.
We have a huge global public health problem. Glaucoma is the leading cause of blindness in the world. In the US alone, over 3 million patients suffer from glaucoma, while 100 million patients are afflicted by this disease globally.
Although to you and I, this looks like a verdant tree in an open pasture on a sunny day, for a glaucoma patient, the reality is starkly different. What seemed to be such a vibrant day has now turned into a gloomy, constricted view of the world.
Glaucoma is a disease caused by fluidic aqueous humor buildup, which increases the pressure in the eye and damages the optic nerve. And if it's not treated properly, it will result in blindness.
The solution is implanting a glaucoma drainage device like a shunt to drain the excess fluid from inside the eye to the outside, where it's naturally taken up by the body. To cover the surgical site, a scleral patch is added.
Unfortunately, the current shunt technology is over 40 years old, with up to 50% failure rate. Their large size requires extensive tissue dissection and uncontrollably releases aqueous humor, causing pathological responses.
Like blebbing, shunt failure due to thick scarring, and tube exposure leading to infections, reducing the quality of life and ultimately leading to blindness in these patients.
We now introduce our squid glaucoma shunt, designed with a valve complex that mimics the human venous valves. Outlet ports fenestrated and coated with mitomycin C to minimize inflammation and fit with 2 retainers for device stability.
Our secret sauce, computational fluid dynamics. 40 years ago, this technology was not available. Our team designed a pressure-sensitive valve to regulate the pressure at just the right amount.
Along with our novel squid glaucoma shunt, we've also designed proprietary squid glaucoma microforceps to minimize dissection and optimize time in the OR.
Now let's take you through a tour on how our cutting-edge technology can be used in the operating room today.
First, the surgeon makes the incision in the desired part of the eye. The posterior squid microforceps will deliver the squid glaucoma shunt in an elegant, timely fashion. The surgeon will then cut the tube. Then, our anterior microforceps will simultaneously create a tunnel and insert the tube,
leaving the patient with less scarring and inflammation without the need for that scleral reinforcement patch. Upon performing a feature comparison study, we found that our surface area is 95% smaller than our leading competitor, and our tube diameter is only half the size.
Our novel features reduce the risk for shunt failure. They allow for expedited commercialization, and we will be the first mitomycin-coated shunt on the market.
In comparison to our competition, our shunt will not require a scleral patch, and our novel mitomycin C coating will reduce the price of the shunt by approximately 50%.
Our shunt's estimated cost is only $1,200, supporting our company's objective to lower the cost for the patient,
yet still providing superior technology. The global glaucoma surgery device market was valued at $353 million in 2016, and is projected to reach $2.1 billion by 2023.
growing at a CAGR of 29% from 2017 to 2023, and a year-over-year growth in 2019 of 27%.
Our shunt will have an impact on 40% of the glaucoma surgical market. Our team was formed in November 2019 and continued to grow since then.
In June, we submitted our patent applications through UT Southwestern, and by August, we secured our 6 letters of intent.
As of today, we've applied for $100,000 in grants.
Our goal by the end of 2021 is to complete bench testing and produce our first minimally viable product, and collaborate with key ophthalmology institutions.
In 2022, we hope to initiate clinical trials with 50 physicians and over 200 of their patients all over the US.
Our co-founders met in 2019. Dr. Kuhner is a physician scientist at UT Southwestern with 30 plus years of experience in treating glaucoma worldwide.
I started my first IT healthcare startup at the age of 17, and since then I've had over 5 startups.
And I have a strong and growing industrial background in the medical device and biotech sector.
Along with our co-PI, Dr. David Schmidtke, a microfluidics expert and professor of bioengineering here at UT Dallas.
And our technical advisors who are helping us bring our technology to the clinic.
Our team also includes graduate and undergraduate students from UT Dallas who are working on developing our umbrella of ophthalmic products.
We are dedicated to developing next-generation technologies to advance ophthalmic treatments
and improve the quality of life for the millions of patients suffering from glaucoma. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob and Hubba. Judges, do you have any questions for the team?
Kudos to the animation team. I thought that was really good. And question is regarding clinical trials. Anyone on the team have any experience with the clinical trial process? Not doing some of your advisors.
Yes, I do have experience in clinical trials. We have participated in many trials over the last 30 years.
And can you elaborate on what the process will be, which trials you'll need to clear, any anticipated challenges or roadblocks, or how confident you are in your
Thank you so
ability
much
to
for
get
that
through the
question.
trial?
And
We actually have an FDA expert that's helping us with the whole regulatory pathway. He's actually a professor here at UT Dallas, Dr. Clark Meyer in the bioengineering department. And this is actually a class 2 medical device. So the regulatory pathways actually can be very fluid, and we're very confident that we can get this product into the market by the end of next year after all the preclinical and clinical trials, and eventually in the eyes of these patients.
So I apologize, my video broke out for just a second, but did you address the CE market? What does it look like, and how complicated would it be for you to get a CE?
Sorry, so we're actually
a European approval
certification.
So we're actually currently focused on getting FDA approval, and inside the U.S. And our first goal is to really capture the U.S. market, working with 50 physicians and about 200 of their patients first, and then eventually we want to go to international level.
Okay, and I would recommend you look at CE because it'll be a lot easier than FDA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've been in conversation with a couple individuals, and we're still working on developing the entire model.
Yeah. So my question is more around the fact that you will have an MVP probably by end of next year, as you mentioned in your timeline. So what are kind of the monetary demands here, and like how much are you projecting that you will need in order for it to see through completion?
So currently, like you mentioned, we're really focused on generating a lot of prototypes and going through preclinical testing, like lab bench testing. And so we're anticipating an initial capital of $100,000 would get us to that stage. And eventually, up until we start clinical trials, we're looking around $250,000. In conversation with a lot of our basic scientists, that's kind of where we're looking at in terms of the capital or monetary value.
Judges, do you mind if I ask a question? Ultimately, what do you guys see as the exit plan for the company? Is the plan to eventually exit through an acquisition from a larger medical device company? Obviously, Alcon is here, and they do a ton of work. Is there any plans to license the technology? Kind of what are the goals to monetize this?
So Dr. Kuhner actually attends many ophthalmology conferences, and he's had a lot of interest from companies, and I'll let him talk about that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I have been in this business for almost 35 years, and one of the disappointing results that we see is large failure rate in these shunts. One of the reasons that could be that the companies that, or whoever who starts this implants does not keep up with the new technology. So my passion is to, one of my passions is looking at the history and evolution of glaucoma and glaucoma surgery. And the shunt business started in the 60s. And if you look at each and every shunt, we haven't shown everyone on the slides, but each one of them was either started by a basic scientist, and then after a few years, that person disappears, and this shunt is bought by another company, where the company's focus is more medical side of glaucoma. So one of the points that we want to bring forward is to say that glaucoma is a surgical disease. It is not a medical disease. In my practice, I treat hundreds of patients every week. I find that almost 50% of these patients have vision problems, blindness, or some kind of visual disability. And the main reason is there is hesitation on the part of surgeons and also patients to go for the surgical option. And I think what we have done here is really try to make a shunt which is going to be very easily inserted. And our team has done research on why these shunts fail, and we have come up with 4 main reasons. One is the bulkiness. Second is a large amount of dissection that we need, and the valves are not pressure sensitive. The other thing is that aqueous humor is released suddenly on a large area, which causes body to react with a lot of fibrosis and scar formation. And so we are also focusing on using mitomycin, which is an anti-fibrotic agent, but it will come pre-coated on our shunt.
And just to add on to that, we're embracing the collaboration between engineers and clinicians, practicing surgeons like Dr. Kuhner, and a lot of companies really appreciate that. And we've developed a lot of novel products here. And we're not just developing products, we're developing a company of ophthalmic products. And so that's our other approach. And so these companies that we've been in conversation with really, think highly of what we're doing.
Well, great job. I think that's the time we have for questions. Judges, take a moment to fill out your scorecards, but great job. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's going to wrap up our student track, and we're going to transition to the alumni track. The alumni will be competing for $10,000 in Amazon Web Services credit, a video marketing package from Zelia Productions, and $25,000 for their startup. In order to share a bit more about this track, let's hear from the VP of Capital Factories Accelerator and General Partner in the VC Fund, as well as Director of the UT Dallas Seed Fund, Brian Chambers.
It's been so rewarding to watch this event grow and transform the lives of students, faculty, and alumni. And I have no doubt this year will be any different. I'd like to recognize our amazing staff and faculty at UT Dallas, UT Southwestern, and Capital Factory for our tireless effort and amazing teamwork to pull off this year's Big Idea competition. It's been no easy feat to not only pivot to a fully virtual event, but to grow every aspect of the event in the face of so much adversity. This year's merger between the Big Idea competition, the UT Dallas Seed Fund, and UT Southwestern is a testament to the incredible creativity and collaboration that will once again help raise the bar and elevate startups in our region and beyond. And we're all better because of these new partnerships. The Student Venture Associate team at the UT Dallas Seed Fund has been hard at work sourcing, analyzing, and evaluating this year's top alumni startups. And I know it's been a rewarding part of their student experience. The entire semester of hard work culminates today at the 2020 Big Idea competition. It started earlier this week with a written report and analysis from the students that's been shared with our esteemed judges, who will not only evaluate today's alumni pitches, but will also consider many other facets of each business beyond what you see in the pitch. I know it was incredibly challenging for the students, and I think that will also be true for our judges this afternoon. Let's get this party started and hear from our awesome alumni startups.
Thanks, Brian. First to pitch is Vigilant Software.
Hello, I am Dr. Peter Beck, founder of Vigilant Software. We are a software and data analytics company that reduces medical errors and helps hospitals capture hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost revenue. I'd like to start with a question. How many accidental deaths are acceptable? In the airline industry, there is zero tolerance. Compare that with healthcare, where medical errors are the third leading cause of death in the US. How is that possible? Simple. Doctors and nurses are human and we make mistakes. A 2015 Harvard study showed 50% of all surgeries had a drug error during your surgery. Pictured are paper rolls, which is the standard of care in almost all operating rooms throughout the world. And this old and calcified market is ripe for disruption. The average surgery uses 12 different drugs, which are clear liquids and look exactly the same inside the syringe. Federal health rules require that each syringe is labeled with the date, the time, and my initials so that I don't accidentally mix up the drugs. The problem is that labeling has not advanced since I went to medical school. It was a manual process in 1994, and in 2020, it is still a manual process where I use a pen and write on each syringe. Because of spreadable diseases like COVID, the CDC requires that all surfaces in the OR are cleaned between surgeries. Unfortunately, these rolls are made of paper, and there is absolutely no way to clean them. That tape roll that I used during your surgery was likely used for earlier patients and is probably contaminated with bacteria and viruses that I may accidentally spread to you. 4 years ago, I developed and patented a way to fix the pain points of medication labeling to create a win-win-win scenario. First and most importantly, the patient wins because they are less likely to suffer a medication error. Our first customer bought our system because the doctor gave the wrong drug from an unlabeled syringe, resulting in major patient harm with a subsequent lawsuit against both the doctor and the hospital. Second, the anesthesia provider wins because the system is easier and faster to use than paper tape. Third, the hospital wins. All drugs now follow the strict safety rules mandated by CMS and the Joint Commissions. Additionally, our system is cost neutral, and by integrating with the hospital's electronic medical record, we have validated an ROI of less than 9 months. This graph is a success story of our first customer. Every month, the hospital was losing about $20,000 in undocumented drugs. We designed a new workflow to integrate with Epic, their EMR, and they increased the revenue by capturing an additional $400,000 in previously lost charges. What is extremely exciting for my company is that this loss is not unique to just this hospital. This leakage is endemic, and hospitals accept this loss as a cost of doing business. We are positioned to help them capture the low-hanging fruit of lost drug charges in the operating room. To date, we have almost $1 million in sales with $10.4 million in the funnel. We are in 7 different states and in 280 operating rooms and pharmacies. 4 months ago, we went live at the largest healthcare system in Houston, and they use Cerner, the second largest EMR. By integrating with both Epic and Cerner, our system can help over 50% of all hospitals in the U.S. capture additional revenue while reducing medical errors for their patients. We calculate the total opportunity to be $1.5 billion based on the number of operating rooms in the world. There is a single competitor in the market named Kodart. Our advantage is based on lower acquisition costs, lower operational expenses, and easier usability during surgery. They use outdated inkjet technology, which is very slow and expensive to maintain, while ours is a direct thermal technology that is faster and cheaper to use. Our team is composed of 3 individuals. I am a combat veteran who served in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I am also the chairman of anesthesiology at a major level 1 trauma center in the Dallas area. Jeff Fontaine, my co-founder, has over 20 years of experience in the healthcare IT space. Our CEO is Fuchs. Last year, he restructured our company to pivot from hardware sales to a SaaS company with greater margins and increased recurrent revenue. Previously, he raised over $4 million for a different startup, has had a successful exit, and sold over $100 million in the pharmacy space. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. Judges, any questions?
Yeah, congratulations on your success, by the way. I think it's incredible, and there's so much work, or quite frankly, there's a lot of money also in making sure to optimize all of these processes. So congratulations again on that. So what is, I guess, the main factor that's holding you back from going into more hospitals? Is it the relationships? Is it the money? Is it like kind of bandwidth? Like what is exactly kind of the thing that will unlock this to become like a super scalable growth company?
Good question. First of all, I'm not as handsome as Peter to work in the hospital due to COVID-19 causing his staff to be shortened. So I'm just trying to fill in. To answer your question, it's really sales efforts and getting to the right person in the hospital. It just takes a lot of time and effort to find that person, get a hold of them, and get their attention for the time period to sell them. And with COVID-19 ramping up, it's making it a little bit more difficult.
Who is the decision maker at the hospital, and how? And you said a lot of time, but how long is the typical sales cycle going to be?
Well, it really depends on the hospital. It's usually either director of pharmacy or director of surgical services. A lot of times the anesthesia department is outsourced. And so it's oftentimes not that group. They're heavy influencers in the process, but it's mostly those 2 roles. If the hospital has had any sort of safety event or a bad audit, that sales cycle is extremely fast, 3 months. If it's not, then it takes a little bit longer in fitting in kind of capital budget cycles.
And hopefully, That's extraordinarily fast for a hospital to make a decision. So, clearly you have something here.
Yes, I mean, they're just extremely motivated, and a lot of times it's, how fast can we get something fixed and in there, and we are very much the easiest path to market to fix the solution.
Fox, can you explain in a little more granular detail how the technology works?
Sure. So we have partnered with Zebra recently, and it fits on a standard thermal printer. And so the software fits on that printer. It connects with the EMR, and the doctor has to come in with his or her badge, scan their badge, look and see on the printer what type of surgery they're going to perform, thoracic surgery, cardiac surgery, and then that's it. A set of labels are printed out. We're very customizable. Here's kind of what it looks like. Sometimes it's an easier job. There could be extra labels. It all depends on what the anesthesia provider kind of sets up ahead of time. And that's it. All color-coded, in order, with all the pertinent information printed on the printer. Printed on the labels.
So, pardon my naivete on this, but are all EMRs universal?
It's very much similar. We expect 85% are using these kind of tape label rolls, and so there's some that are using competition or ours.
Have you considered branding your own version of the Zebra printer? And then, do you have a platform for the hospitals to continually either buy additional printers or buy the supplies in addition to their subscription service?
We have partnered with Zebra. Zebra is in a huge amount of these hospitals already, and so
it's already there. Okay.
Yeah, they're there. It's really a really step stool. They don't have a footprint really in the operating rooms, so they're super excited, and their sales reps actually get paid every time we place one of these in there. And so it's a huge partnership for us, right? They provide us credibility, and their reps are helping us actively get in there. And really, we want to focus on our revenue source, which is the software and the consumables. The printers or the printer, we're not really adding a lot to that. And so the more footprint that we can get with just utilizing the printer and charging for our software.
So judges, that's all the time we have for Vigilant. So Fox, we really appreciate the time and give our best to Peter. He's doing some great work over at the hospital, obviously. Give him our best. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So next up, we have Arun Gupta from Skyvin Technologies. Arun?
Hi, my name is Arun Gupta, and I'm the founder of Skyvin Technologies. We are profitably decarbonizing industrial process heat. That's the heat used to manufacture everything that you and I consume on a daily basis, from the food we eat to the clothes we wear. It is huge. It accounts for 15% of all fuel burned worldwide, $500 billion in annual fuel consumption. It is used in industries ranging from food production to chemicals, textiles, the list goes on. It's used in processes such as pasteurizing milk to drying lumber. It accounts for 5 gigatons of annual CO2 emissions worldwide, and it is woefully underserved by carbon mitigation efforts. That's why climate scientists consider it to be the next great frontier for decarbonization. So we've built the world's first industrial decarbonization company. We take full life cycle responsibility for decarbonizing our customers' plants. In order to do that, we're pioneering both a technology to tell us how to do it and a business model to turn those results into actual GHG savings. Our process starts with a proprietary software tool that analyzes all of the variables. There are hundreds of variables in industrial plants, and this software looks at all of them and tells us how to decarbonize each individual plant. And the effect of that is that it's automating what would otherwise be a bespoke custom consulting project. Now, after the software tells us what to do, we help our customers actually implement those systems. And we do that by hiring, managing, and paying third-party contractors to build the system. And then we use the as-a-service revenue model to earn revenue for delivering clean process heat to our customers' facilities. Now, the capital used to pay for these systems is supplied by third-party project finance. That means that it's being supplied by either banks or private equity firms. Now, from a customer standpoint, the customer saves money from day one because they didn't put any capital up. They have no financial risk, and we engineer these systems so that they produce no downtime for the customer facility. And the customer also, it just so happens to reduce or eliminate their greenhouse gas emissions. So the combination of the technology and the business model has led to substantial customer traction. We have 5 signed contracts that over the life of these contracts will deliver a total of $15 million in revenue to Skyvin and over $2 million of lifetime profit. We have 2 major customers. One is Cornell, the other is California Dairies Incorporated, the world's largest butter producer. Each one of these systems is unique, fully custom, and has demonstrated our ability to manage the complexity of custom systems. All of them are currently in implementation. On the right side of this slide shows that we have $30 million worth of systems in the pipeline with major brands. Each logo on this slide represents a specific system at a specific plant. So for example, the Apple system is at Apple's world headquarters in Cupertino called Apple Park. This system is essentially eliminating the boilers that are being used to heat a building that is larger than the Pentagon. With Chobani, we have a totally different system that is achieving a similar effect in eliminating boilers and fuel consumption at Chobani's plant. Quick notes about our software automation system. We call it data.skyvin. This system is unique because it learns from every project we do and applies that learning to future projects. So it gets smarter over time. This cuts costs by a factor of 10 and accelerates our sales cycle by a factor of 4, and also allows Skyvin as a business to scale by eliminating our need to hire an army of domain experts. The team consists of myself. I have a PhD in electromechanical engineering from UTD, go Comets, and I have experience bringing hard technology from idea on a napkin all the way to revenue-generating product with TI. Our COO, David March, has built over $400 million worth of solar and led Rockwell Automation's process efficiency group for several years. Scott, our CFO, has a couple of decades of CFO experience. We have a fantastic team of directors and some great advisors, including the Director of Sustainability for Caltech. So with that, I want to thank you for your audience and open the floor for questions.
Questions for Arun?
Arun, can you share how much money you've raised to date and from whom?
Sure. So we've got about $4 million in capital in the company. The vast majority of that is non-dilutive. So roughly half of it comes from the state of New York, from New York State Energy Research and Development Agency called NYSERDA. The other half comes from the National Science Foundation. So that's a little under $3 million total. And then the remainder, 1.3 million, I think, comes from private investors, of which all of them are angels. We don't have any institutional private investors yet.
Congrats. That's great.
Thank you.
So how tough is your sales cycle these days, Arun? Is it easy, or is it harder nowadays, or easier?
With COVID, we think it's harder. We're a rapidly growing company, so it's a bit difficult to measure versus pre-COVID, since we've advanced the company so much in the last 9 months or so. But in general, we hear from customers like ADM, Archer Daniels Midland. They're like, yeah, we really are interested in working with you, Skyvin, but we're on total lockdown right now. We've gone back to April conditions. No one's in and out of the plant. We can't even get into our own plant. So you're going to have to wait until this COVID situation dies down. But with that said, some other facilities are saying like, hey, look, we're in operation. We make food. I mean, our initial target market is food production. So all of our customers are still in operation. America still needs to eat. And so some of them are moving forward.
So how much funding is needed right now?
In terms of what we're raising at the corporate level, or what, can you add a little more color to that question?
I mean, anything you can share. I mean, what are you, in order to continue on your growth trajectory, what are you trying to secure in funding to achieve those milestones?
Got it. Yeah. So we are planning to raise a Series A next year. So we don't currently have a round open, but and we have a pretty good runway. We have about, at this point, a little over 12 months of runway. But in order to ramp the business up and scale to the venture style growth that we're planning on, we'll plan on raising about a $8 million Series A next year. And then from a project finance perspective, not all, but many of our projects we pay for, but we pay for those using third-party project finance. So that's non-recourse debt financing. And we have commitments for about $100 million worth of financing in that bucket. So we're doing pretty good on that.
That's great. Congrats.
Thank you.
Are there any markets that you're looking to go into that you think you haven't tapped into yet? Or, I mean, kind of what's next on the roadmap on that side?
Yeah, no, the markets out there, the market potential is enormous because the industrial sector is so big and so untapped from a sustainability and decarbonization standpoint. So, we've initially targeted food production in California and New York State. We've recently expanded that to look at food production primarily nationwide. And then after that, the next target market will be the chemicals industry.
Sorry, why the chemicals industry?
So chemicals plants use a tremendous amount of fuel and process heat. So it's a good fit in that regard.
Thanks, Arun. Judges, that's all the time that we have for Skyvin, but Arun, great job. We'll just ask the judges to go and fill out their scorecards.
Thanks, Arun.
Awesome. Next up, we have Mona with Lazarus 3D. Mona?
Hi, I am Mona Tarwa at Lazarus 3D, where we help doctors operate with confidence. There is no substitute for experience. A musician plays with such elegance so flawlessly. It makes it look easy, but it took years of practice. This is the same for surgeon. In medicine, experience is irreplaceable. But there is a problem when physicians are learning surgery on a pumpkin. This isn't even the worst of it. Typically, physicians learn on the job by practicing on you and me. And because they don't have a way to improve their surgical skills outside of the operating room, sometimes they make mistakes. Well, these mistakes have a costly price. Every year, more than 250,000 people die in the US due to medical error, which are the third leading cause of death. Let's look at kidney cancer. When patients undergoing surgery for kidney cancer end up with complication, over 20% of them end up with a lifelong condition, such as chronic kidney disease, which is a huge financial burden, not to mention dialysis, which is painful and changes a person. What is even more shocking is the $2.5 billion spent every single year in follow-on care for these patients. A primary driver of the patient's outcome is the surgeon's skill itself. If the surgeon has practiced on thousands of patients, they'll hopefully do a good job, right? But if they're not so highly experienced, they are likely to make some very costly mistakes. Well, surgeon skill should not compromise your quality of care. If only a surgeon could practice and rehearse your exact surgery before operating. Just imagine. Lazarus 3D has developed the solution. We developed a patented technology that allows us to create 3D printed soft replica of patients directly from their data. Surgeons use these models to practice the surgery ahead of time before operating on their patients. Let me put this into perspective. Well, Jack is a 60 years old diabetic male. His doctor reviewed his CT scan and tell him he had kidney cancer. His surgery is going to be very challenging. But before operating on Jack, his surgeon uses Lazarus 3D patient-specific model to rehearse his surgery ahead of time. This is a side-by-side video of the rehearsal being performed on Jack's kidney replica on left and the actual surgery on the right. Using our technology, Jack's surgeon was able to perfect the surgery plan ahead of time, and this prevented Jack from ending up with a lifelong dialysis. And his surgeon did change his life forever. So, to create a replica of an individual organ, we first began by analyzing the MRI or CT images obtained directly from the patient. We then create a digital 3D replica. Then after that, we finally produce a physical copy of the patient's kidney, including the tumor and the blood vessels. And then the surgeon will rehearse on this copy before the real surgery. Our technology is unique because commercial 3D printers can only produce parts in hard plastic and tough resins. Similarly, VR platforms lack realistic tactile feedback. In comparison, Lazarus 3D technology has a huge competitive edge over these two. We have already had $2.3 million in sales to top hospitals, medical school, and medical device companies. We have multiple patents, and our core patent is already issued. We also have a medical billing code issued this year by the AMA. We are a registered healthcare provider. We are excited that our FDA 510K is under review, and we anticipate approval by Q1 of 2021. We are also talking to one of the largest healthcare insurance providers to partner with us. So once we are FDA approved, we will be able to address the patient-specific rehearsal market with our core product. We'll begin in cancer surgery, which is a $10 billion TAM, and specifically will provide patient-specific model for kidney cancer, which is our first indication. From there, we will expand out to additional indications. Our cost of production is $320 per patient-specific models, and we sell them at $2,500 each with 88% margins. These are our revenue projections. Once we are FDA approved, we anticipate steady growth over the next few years until we launch our patient-specific models for cardiology and neurosurgery in 2023. By 2025, we anticipate $100 million in revenue. We are Lazarus 3D. We started in Texas, so small, and have come really far. I am actually a proud UT Dallas alumni, and I am so honored to be here today. And together with our team, we are going to change the face of healthcare. Come join us in this mission to improve healthcare and, most importantly, patients' outcome. We're excited to connect with you, and thank you so much for your support.
Thanks, Mona. Judges, any questions?
Hello.
What is your what's your main competitive advantage when you compare yourself to like the Envision Tech or 3D Systems?
Yes, that's a really good question. So if we take, for example, 3D Systems or other companies, like their main or core product is actually selling the software or selling the printer itself to the hospital, right? But for us, we actually sell you this itself, you know? So you don't have to buy like a $250,000 printer or like a $30,000 software. What you have to do is just basically send us your MRI data, and we segment it, and at the end of the day, we send you a physical model.
I also want to comment that 3D Systems and Stratasys models are not as realistic as what you can see in our videos. So these can actually be cut apart, they can be sutured, and you can really practice a surgery ahead of time instead of just looking at the anatomy. And that's what's behind our patents.
And by the way, this is Dr. Jacques Zanaveld, and this is Smriti Zanaveld. They are also the co-founders of Lazarus 3D.
Nice to meet you all. Nice to meet you. I have a question. So you guys have you've honed in on kidney cancer, correct? And have you only tested printing the kidney organ?
Incorrect.
Okay.
So we have printed every model, a model of the human organs or organ systems from head to toe. Our capabilities go beyond just a single tissue type or a single material or a single color type, because we have the ability to modify our soft polymers and replicate really the biological tissues for a wide range of structures, internal structures. We are focusing on kidney cancer as our first indication post FDA clearance of the medical device that's patient-specific models because they're FDA regulated. Instead of trying to tackle everything all at once and then getting, losing focus, we're using this as a, sort of primary market that's going to set the path for everything else. And neurosurgery and cardiothoracic surgery are much bigger markets than kidney cancer, as you saw in the presentation, which is why we think that kidney cancer is a good place to start. And the output is very measurable because patients undergoing kidney cancer surgery, the most important factor is renal preservation. So preservation of their kidney function, and that's measurable. So we can use that to show the impact of rehearsing ahead of the surgery to the insurance providers that are our main clients.
Yeah, that's smart. And on that note, do you have any results or accuracy or results or KPIs to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So in our FDA testing that we submitted in the summer, we've shown that the accuracy of our approach is about 0.16 millimeters, so about a sixth of a millimeter. The requirements, which are set by RSNA and the FDA has agreed to on our calls, would be 1 millimeter. So we're 6 times more accurate than we need to be.
And how long do you expect these to last? Have you done
Okay, so the usability for the patient-specific models, it's not restricted to the shelf life. These are synthetic polymers, and they can, based on our in-house testing, last upwards of 2 years. However, the physician that is getting a patient-specific model for their upcoming surgery is most likely going to use it within a week or so of the real case. In our clinical study that's published, where we piloted it with Baylor College of Medicine, physicians were using our patient-specific models, which we provided within 24 hours of getting the data. They were using it within 1 hour of the scheduled surgery while the patient was in the waiting room. So it's pretty rapid. However, the physicians that have worked with us have all, pretty much, they value the surgery that they perform on the replicas of their patients and use it as a training tool for all of their future residents and future surgeries. So they really keep it sort of like as a momentum, kind of create some of that in their hospitals.
So unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for Lazarus, but very interesting technology. Great job in the progress and good luck in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome. So judges, you guys have a difficult decision. I think you're going to need to take a moment to deliberate, ultimately to come back with the winner of both the student and the alumni track. But I think you guys would agree that the teams did a fantastic job. Next up, we're going to move along to the biotech track. I'd like to share a moment to have George Goodnow, the Director of Industry Relations at UT Southwestern, to do an intro. George?
Thanks, R.A. Hello and welcome to the Biotech Plus track featuring 4 technologies from the UT Southwestern Medical Center. My name is George Goodnow and I'm the Director of Industry Relations for UT Southwestern's Office for Technology Development. We are so excited and honored to contribute to this year's Big Idea competition. This is truly a big and exciting time for innovation across North Texas, and that's particularly true for the healthcare research at UT Southwestern. Our most recent spin-out company, Taysha Gene Therapies, was founded by R.A. Sessions, our Master of Ceremonies for this fantastic event. Taysha is just one example, but a very good one at that, of the world-class research and innovation being advanced in our laboratories every day. Right now, we have over 550 clinical trials open that represents the work of more than 500 labs across our Dallas campus. In addition to the 6 Nobel Prizes that have been awarded to our researchers, we have 23 National Academy of Science members and 13 Howard Hughes Medical Institute investigators. UT Southwestern was just ranked #1 by the journal Nature's annual index within the healthcare category for producing high-quality research within 3 categories. That's overall research, life sciences, and chemistry. Furthermore, we are excited to be joining the Blackstone Launchpad and TechStars network in early 2021. As our office transitions to the soon-to-be open Pegasus Park Innovation Hub, our Blackstone Launchpad, powered by TechStars, will will become the front door to entrepreneurial tools, programs, and resources on UT Southwestern's campus. And so I look forward to showing all of you the upcoming 4 amazing Biotech Plus track finalists and the opportunity to offer a snapshot of the incredible life-saving and life-enhancing therapies being developed by the thousands of researchers at UT Southwestern Medical Center. But first, let me introduce you to another incredible person who's playing a big role in advancing North Texas's growing reputation as a hotspot for healthcare innovation. Joan Seifert Rose is the strategic advisor for Launch Bio and has been an essential collaborator and advisor to my colleagues and me through the planning of this event, as well as so many elements of the Pegasus Park Innovation Hub development process. I'll now send it over to you, Joan.
Thanks, George. And as you mentioned, I'm Joan Seifert Rose with Launch Bio, and I am really excited to be part of this pitch competition. Launch Bio is the nonprofit partner to Biolabs, which is a national network of co-working spaces. Biolabs is going to be opening a 31,000 square foot facility at Pegasus Park next year in 2021. And that's going to be the first such facility for both Launch Bio and Biolabs in the South and in someplace that isn't the coasts, which is really pretty exciting. It's going to include a fully equipped wet lab space, both individual benches for 2-person startup teams, and then private labs for maybe teams that include up to 6 scientists. Biolabs also provides lab support, so you can just kind of come in and start working on your science. You don't have to worry about taking care of all the paperwork, and it's basically something that you can transition very easily from an academic research lab. Like some of the great companies that we're seeing, or the ideas and technologies we're seeing during this pitch competition, this would be the type of home that they could go to once they're ready to leave UT Southwestern and the other academic research centers around the region. When it's full, the Biolabs at Pegasus Park is going to be home to 25 to 35 life science startups. Now, why is this an important addition to the North Texas biotech ecosystem? Well, it's a much more capital and time efficient way to start a company. Biolabs was started by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, so they really know the pain that is associated with starting a company and taking that science out of the research lab and trying to get it into a commercial state. They did it so it's much easier to get started that way. You can rent a bench by the month. You don't have to be in for a big capital investment because the equipment is all there for you and the lab management services. So unlike today, where a startup needs to invest something like $500,000 and maybe spend 6 to 9 months building a space, you can move right out of an academic research lab into Biolabs and start work within the week. It's really amazing how quickly you can start getting to work, turning that great idea into a viable company. And again, why is this important? Well, because so many great ideas are already happening around North Texas. And you can see that again by the quality of the biotech pitches that are coming in today's competition. But I think more importantly that we want to take big ideas and make them happen, make them be the next cures or the next therapies that are really going to help human health. I'm with Launch Bio, as I say, we're the nonprofit partners. So we often come in and work with the other existing organizations like UT Southwestern, like Pegasus Park, like Lyda Hill, which has made so much of this happen. And we really see how this transforms a region. You see these places have a biolabs, companies start to form, and then it just generates more company formation. So Launch Bio will be working in Dallas to make connections for Biolabs and its member companies to all the many great enterprises that are already here. We'll also be continuing to offer some educational programs and also peer-to-peer connections we're facilitating during this time when we have to keep our social distance. But in time, it will be an opportunity to really connect Dallas in with the rest of this national network of about 13,000 individuals and companies that are already part of Launch Bio and the Biolabs network nationally. I'm really excited to be part of this. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be part of this competition today, and really looking forward to working with all of you in Dallas as we move into 2021.
Now let's meet the judges for the biotech track. Kenichi Hartman is a senior U.S. patent agent and partner at AC Intis IP. Kenichi received his patent training at the Manhattan office of Ropes & Gray, a global law firm with the leading IP practice, and is a registered patent agent with the U.S. Patent Office. He brings a specialist technical knowledge gleaned from a 12-year research career. Christine Brennan has over 15 years in the life science industry, including business development, corporate strategy, and venture investing. She is currently a partner at MRLB. Claire Laurent is a principal of venture investments at Johnson & Johnson Innovation. Claire focuses on pharmaceutical investments and has spent 14 years in the pharmaceutical industry in R&D. Clay Hayden is a founder of Caddis Partners. After completing residency training in Dallas, he practiced emergency medicine for 13 years. Clay is also the founding member of Green Park and Golf Ventures and serves on multiple boards of directors of early stage healthcare companies and is a co-founder of Health Wildcatters. Carl Handelsman is a founder and managing partner of Kodart Capital and a key contributor and builder in the US biotech innovation ecosystem. Carl also spends his time coaching at various incubators and teaching healthcare entrepreneurs. Next, we have Aldo Adi. He is an entrepreneur and venture capitalist. Abdul serves as a principal of his family office and executive chairman of WorldLink, a company he founded in 1998. Abdul helped establish the ID family office with the primary focus to invest into and to scale in sectors of life science and emerging technologies. Next, we have James Graham. He is an experienced life science professional, skilled in translational medicine and commercialization of biomedical technologies. James currently serves as the director of investments at Research Bridge Partners. Welcome, judges. Thanks for being here. Are you ready to see what our innovators have to offer?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
First on the biotech track to pitch is Bo Lee.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bo Lee, and we're developing immune-based early cancer detection method. Cancer is the leading cause of death. In the United States alone, there are over 1.8 million newly diagnosed cancer patients in 2020, with over 600,000 cancer deaths. Early cancer diagnosis could save lives, but it is very difficult. Stage 1 or 2 cancer patients have almost perfect clinical outcome, but most of the patients were diagnosed at stage 3 or stage 4, where survival quickly dropped to below 10%. So far, only very few cancer types have an early detection method, such as colorectal cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer, and prostate. But for most of the other cancer types, there's no solution at all. The cancer diagnosis has a global market of $170 billion in 2020. But we're focusing on the non-invasive blood test, which is the most accessible and affordable format of test. And it is expected to grow into a $6 billion market by 2030. The current problem of blood tests is that it cannot detect early stage cancer almost at all. But we are hoping that our solution will make it much, much better. Our solution is immune-based cancer detection. So to compare, traditionally, doctors look for early stage cancers by looking for the tumor, which the bad guy is itself. This process usually suffers from low sensitivity because the early stage tumors are very small, and it usually has low specificity because early stage cancers usually are symptomatic. So there's no outstanding symptoms for the doctors to detect. But we take a completely different path. Your body actually responded much, much earlier to cancer or something else growing in your body than the doctors can detect. With the response are delivered by the adaptive immune cells. So we are looking for the responses of the adaptive immune cells. And one advantage of these cells is that they can multiply themselves hundreds of even thousands of times after specific recognition of cancer, allowing their signals to be amplified many, many times. Therefore, we have developed an artificial intelligence-based approach to detect such signals and to diagnose cancer at early stage. This approach, at our preliminary results, has high sensitivity, high specificity, and the cost for as a diagnostic test is only $500, and at the same level of the other blood tests. To compare with other existing diagnostic approach, our immune-based method is able to detect early cancers for many different cancer types. And it has relatively high specificity, low cost. It's very available because it only requires a small amount of peripheral blood. So far, we have built a strong team with both basic science researchers and clinical doctors. We are prospectively collecting patient blood samples from Parkland Clemens Hospitals and Harvard Medical School. We are supported by our industrial partners, and we are in discussion with venture capital companies for potential investment choices, but that's at very early stage. Our business model follows the typical diagnostic test, such as Cologuard, where doctors make orders from us, we provide the feedback, which will be used to diagnose at-risk patients. We will then invoice patient or invoice health insurance companies. We believe the insurance companies will be interested in paying because early cancer detection will eventually save them a lot of money. Currently, we are at the preceding phase with the patent filed and paper published. Our prospective clinical study started in September 2020, and so far we have collected 80 samples. But our goal is to collect 200 samples and got all of them sequenced and analyzed. So far, there's a 100K funding gap. So we are calling to bridge their funding gap so that we can perform a thorough clinical evaluation of the method and get ready for its commercialization and proceed with the seeding phase. So please help us together to develop this early cancer detection method, and we can save more lives. Thank you.
Great job, Bo. Judges, any question for Bo?
I've got one. So, Bo, what do you estimate is the cost per life year, kind of the dreaded sort of economic value of your test? You know, I think you mentioned that you had a 99% specificity. How many people with ovarian cancer would you have to test in order to make an intervention that made a difference?
That's absolutely a great question. I prepared a slide to answer that. So let me share the screen. Can you see this screen?
No. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. So let me, let me make it full screen. So basically, you ask about the specificity of the method, and basically by doing a population-wise screening test, how much does it cost, right?
Right.
This is based on the understanding that cancer is still a rare disease. So if there's a relatively low specificity, just the cost for false positive will just kill the test, right? That is a really valid concern. And we actually have done some analysis. So if you look at the cancer prevalence, it is actually not that, it is a little bit surprising to me. So 3 out of 100 individuals have cancer. This is based on the Sears statistics in 2016. So we proposed the early screening route with the treatment, screen, and potential cost by false positives. Alternatively, there's no screen, which is the current practice. So with the screening, the treatment for early stage cancers is actually pretty low because it's only probably need a small simple surgery and may or may not need the chemo. But the screening cost is $500 per individual. But of course, there will be cost by false positives. It's really hard to estimate. Our current specificity is 98%. So with 100 individuals, we expect 2 to 3 false positives. So that is the cost that we add up, and it's in total about 320K. Alternatively, it will cost with no screen. Treating late-stage cancer patients will cost, on average, $1 million because it takes years and multiple regimen of treatment. So it may cost up to $3 million. And so that is basically our estimation. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. It doesn't answer it definitively, but I think you addressed it best as you can.
Thanks.
I have a question. I looked at your PCT patent. I noticed that all your claims were deemed novel, but not obvious over one of your earlier papers. Do you have a clear, I realized that, having even passed the novelty stage, at this early stage is already a good sign. But do you see a clear path towards getting over the obviousness hump?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last word.
do you have a clear path towards overcoming the obviousness rejections that's in the search report and written opinion?
Right. So the written opinion of the current PCE patent, I think the lawyers have done a thorough, basically, search of the previous patents, and I think it's absolutely novel. But in regarding for it's to be approved, I guess. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right now it's novel, but obvious over one of your earlier papers, and
yeah,
I just want to see if the material in the patent is distinctive over what was in your previous paper.
Yeah. So actually, the content is in the patent. I think it's slightly wider than what is proposed in the paper. In the paper, we just talk about one deep learning approach, but in the patent, we actually cover all the possible machine learning or computational based method to use the TCR as a liquid biopsy for cancer diagnosis. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have, judges, for questions for Bo. But Bo, great job. Judges, if you could take a minute to just fill out your scorecard for Bo. Next up, we're going to welcome Kiyoshi Arizumi. Kiyoshi.
Good morning, everybody. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in US. Because of this poor survival rate going down to 4% within 5 years after initial diagnosis. Chemotherapy, the second cancer treatment, saves the life of 50% of cancer patients in a year. Immunotherapy significantly improved the survival rate up to 70%. However, this effect has been reduced by resistance. Our goal is to improve immunotherapy by overcoming resistance. Why some cancers are resistant to immunotherapy? Immune cells attacking the cancers one-sidedly, while cancers protecting themselves. We found many cancers use cross-counter attack to knock down immune cells. We discovered that cancer cells counterattack immune cells using this DC Hill molecule. We created DC Hill specific antibody, which acts like a shield to protect immune cells and restore their function. DC Hill, in fact, revitalized exhausted immune cells. Immune cells were put in the culture and growing in clumps, knocked down by cancer cells, but restored by DC Hill antibody. This antibody, when injected into tumor-bearing mice, can boost cancer immunity, resulting in inhibited growth of melanoma and other cancers. DC Hill is also an alarm for cancer growing. In PD-1 standard immunotherapy, resistant people produce DC Hill higher than benefit people. When people had a cancer recurrence, DC Hill was rapidly increased. So we can establish precision cancer therapy. Among cancer patients, we can find people who will most likely benefit from DC Hill antibody before study. During treatment, we can monitor for cancer growth. Thus, this system provides benefit targeting sensitive cancer, increasing survival rate, avoiding unnecessary treatment, thus saving your time and money. We believe DC Hill antibody is useful for treating colon, kidney, lung, and melanoma cancers. In total, 500,000 new cases. Particularly, DC Hill antibody could benefit 50,000 metastatic patients with cancer resistance to PD-1
standard therapy. Our team has cancer research and treatment expert, and our research has been supported by many grants. This is a flow chart for drug development of DC Hill antibody, in which we are here heading to IND studies for clinical study. Thus, we are looking for funds for IND and connection with marketing expert. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Kiyoshi. Judges, any questions?
Yeah, I have one question. You mentioned the increase of this particular marker on patients that have either relapse or some of the patients that are going to be treated for PD-L1. But what is the prevalence of this on normal tissue? Is there enough? Will there be any essential, typical side effects that you see when you hit normal cells as well?
Yes, normal cells do not express at all. Yeah, that's DC Hill molecule. So we, in order to check the toxicity in the mice, we injected that antibody into the naive mice, so healthy mice, so cancer-free mice. And we collected the white blood or something other tissues. We were unable to see any abnormalities in the treated mice. It's 1 month. Is that okay?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I have a question as well. Is the treatment different based on the tumor you're considering, cancer you're considering, or is it the same treatment applied across the different indications?
You mean it's a different immune therapy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Think our DC Hill molecule as a marker to show the resistance to the immunotherapy. Yes. And we have studied lung cancer, colon cancer, and kidney cancer. That is a human. We collected the blood samples from the before treatment and follow-up 12 weeks. Then we check the DC Hill levels. DC Hill levels high in the, it's a good marker to identify the people who may have a resistance before treatment. And we have not yet identified the sources of DC Hill molecule, a blood DC Hill molecule yet, because we don't think cancer itself expresses DC Hill. Maybe cancer helping immune cells produce the DC Hill molecule and get in the bloodstream. That's what we believe.
So, I have a question. So it seems like you have two different aspects. One's like the screening, and then one's the treatment.
Yes.
Antibody you're using in both cases is the same.
Yes, that's right. Okay. That's why we will be able to establish precision cancer immunotherapy.
Judges, I think we have time for one additional question.
I noticed that you recently got a patent. Congratulations. But I see that it's limited to a very particular set of six CDRs. I was wondering how much of a design around risk that creates for competitors designing around, like if you're locked into those exact 6 CDRs.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your question.
The patent, specifies the 6 CDR regions.
6 CDR region, you mean in the antibody?
Yeah, the CDR regions.
Yes.
So it's very specific. It's that precise antibody.
Yeah.
Is there a design around risk? Can competitors, change one?
Yes. I got
amino
you.
acid.
Yeah. And first of all, the CDR sequence has been patented. We have unissued a US patent. And the second, it's we have to make a humanized antibody using that CDR. And yes, we will be able to mutate the CDR sequences to increase affinity to the target.
Okay.
Yes.
So it seems like you have some chances for some follow-up IP as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kiyoshi. Great job. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Judges, make sure you fill out your scorecards. Next up, we're going to have a pitch from Young. See you. Young?
Hello, everyone. I'm Yang Xie, a professor at UT Southwestern. Today, I will talk about digital pathology using artificial intelligence. Imagine you are a pathologist in an operation room, and the entire surgical team is waiting for your diagnosis to decide whether they should remove an organ. Can you tell whether this slide contains cancer cells? Which type of lung cancer is this? The treatment decision heavily relies on the fast and accurate diagnosis of reading these tissue slides. Here is the more challenging task. Can you tell which patient will respond to a specific treatment? Don't feel bad if you can't, because even the best pathologists could not tell by reading the tissue slides alone. In order to improve disease diagnosis, we developed an AI algorithm called histology-based digital staining, HD staining for short. Using this image patch as an example, our HD staining algorithm can detect and classify individual cells, and then provide color-coded images. The HD staining can also quantify and model cell spatial distributions. Therefore, it can facilitate faster and more accurate diagnosis. It is very cost-effective. It can improve treatment response and help new drug discovery. The HD staining has been applied to thousands of human tissues across multiple types of cancer. More than 10 scientific papers have been published. Our work has been highlighted and cited in the scientific community and gained significant media attention. Our team has outstanding data scientists, pathologists, clinicians, and biologists. This is a collaborative effort with clinicians and scientists from top medical institutes in the country and is supported by multiple research grants. For commercialization, the digital pathology market is predicted to reach over $8 billion by 2023. The annual growth rate for software section is about 20%. The digital pathology software can facilitate healthcare professionals remotely access the information. This is very important for the post-COVID-19 era. Key stakeholders for our product would be hospitals, biotech and pharma companies, diagnostic labs, and research institutes. What's next? HD staining method has been developed and evaluated extensively. Our collaborators are eager to use it for clinical diagnosis. The missing link is a user-friendly software to be used in clinics. The prize from this competition would allow us to start developing a user-friendly software for clinical diagnosis. Thank you very much.
So I have one question. Well, maybe it's two questions. First of all, do pathologists also believe that their current methods are not sufficient and they need better algorithm or better staining techniques to be able to determine cancer versus normal?
Yes. So I would answer this in two ways. So one is for cancer versus normal. usually pathologists are very confident they can do this diagnosis accurately. The limitation is the speed, right? So yeah, so that is why I used the example in the operation room. They need to identify cancer cells very fast. If they miss it, then the surgeons will make wrong decisions. So that is the speed is important. The second is for the very subtle, detailed diagnosis, like subtypes of cancer, that usually require more expertise, right? So that is really distinguished between a junior pathologist versus more a very senior pathologist. So that I think AI can definitely help. And the third is a much more challenging problem is prognosis of patient outcome and predict drug treatment response, which actually our colleagues pathologists usually that they cannot do that. So they really hope that this kind of AI method can facilitate on that regard.
Actually, how automated is the process? Is this basically a way to improve the visualization so that the pathologist can then, easily see the subtypes and the distribution, or can much of the analysis itself, towards diagnosis be automated as well?
Yes, great question. We can do both. The first is to do the color image, so it can facilitate pathology visualize can really visualize the cells. But that is just the first step. Much more complicated is really the modeling part, which is how to utilize the different type of cells and how the spatial relationship among these cells. Really, this is a very complex relationship, right? So usually human brain can hardly really to get a quantified measure out of this pattern. So that's why we use not only deep learning, but also a lot of other very advanced mathematical modeling to try to quantify and measure this complex spatial relationship. And then to model this, how this relationship associated with outcome. And then based on this model, we can have a recommendation, say, oh, this patient is more likely to respond to this particular treatment or not. So the answer to your question is we can do both for the visualization and also the quantification and the modeling.
How do you plan to use your technology? Where are you in the development? And because you're talking about what you can do, but what are you pursuing?
Yes. So right now, our research can do a lot of things. However, in order to make this product really be able to use in a real-time clinical setting, we need to have a much more refined user interface part so that pathologists and clinicians can use it very easily. That is the missing piece, and that is what we need to do next. Actually, compared to many other potential competitor or product, I think we are the only software algorithm can really predict the treatment response well.
Judges, I think we have time for one additional question.
I have a quick follow-up. So in this kind of model, there is a learning and then there is the validation. Where are you in that process?
Yeah, actually, we already validate our model in thousands of slides across multiple types of cancer. And
so,
based on independent cohorts from different institutes.
Well, Young, thank you. Thank you for your time. Great job. Judges, please take a moment to fill out your scorecards. Next up, please welcome Vinod Mehta.
Hello, my name is Dr. Vinod Mehta, and I'd like to share with you our story to develop a precision medicine for age-related corneal degeneration. Fuchs endothelial corneal dystrophy affects the cornea. The cornea is the clear transparent tissue in the front of the eye. This disorder impacts nearly 1 in 20 individuals in the United States over the age of 40. In this disorder, the inner layer of the cornea undergoes accelerated aging and cell death. Patients develop progressive swelling and scarring of their cornea that can result in significant pain and loss of vision. Currently, the only treatment option for patients is corneal transplantation. I was recruited to UT Southwestern 15 years ago to implement new types of corneal transplant procedures. We no longer need to transplant the entire corneal surface in all its layers. We're able to selectively scrape and remove just the diseased inner layer, as I'm demonstrating here in a patient with Fuchs dystrophy. We transplant a donor graft from the eye bank using a donor eye. The transplanted tissue is positioned into place using a gas bubble. Therefore, patients have to lay flat for 3 to 5 days. If they don't, the graft can detach, and 20% of the time, they need repeated air injections in the clinic. 5% of the time, the transplanted tissue may fail within the first 5 years due to immune rejection. 25% of our patients go on to develop glaucoma that may require additional treatments or surgeries. I tell my patients after 10 years, they may need a repeat corneal transplantation if they develop corneal decompensation at that time. So Fuchs affects about 3 million individuals in the United States alone. Given that the world's population is aging, this disease prevalence is only going to continue to increase. It's the leading indication for transplantation worldwide. In the United States, in the year 2018, we performed over 17,000 procedures, which requires tertiary care eye centers as well as the support of eye banks. Keep in mind that corneal transplant surgery costs our healthcare system approximately $30,000 per eye. Currently, there are no medical treatments that have been shown to be effective for Fuchs dystrophy. A precision medicine is intended to target the genetic root cause of a disease. Work from our laboratory and others have shown that 70% of Fuchs dystrophy cases are caused by a DNA repeat expansion in the TCF4 gene. Namely, a CTG repeat in the DNA of the TCF4 gene results in the toxic accumulation of CUG repeat RNA. You can see the accumulation of the toxic repeat RNA in the corneal cells of this patient tissue. Rather than waiting until our patients need corneal transplantation, we propose to treat our patients with synthetic nucleic acids that target the repeat RNA. We've developed both single-stranded and double-stranded synthetic nucleic acids in the form of oligonucleotides that are complementary to the CUG repeat RNA, which binds the repeat RNA and neutralizes their toxic effects. Over the last few years, we've developed proof of concept that these compounds work in both patient-derived cells as well as in human tissue. This was done with the support of the National Eye Institute. And more recently, with the support of the Harrington Discovery Institute, we've been able to show that we're able to deliver these compounds to the eye with just simple local administration. Additional animal experiments are obviously warranted before we can consider human trials. We have a talented team. My collaborator, David Corey, is a renowned biochemist who's developed oligonucleotides targeting repeat DNA disorders for the last 20 years. We want to do what's best for our patients. We feel that 250,000 patients may benefit from a pharmacological treatment to prevent their disease from progressing and requiring corneal transplantation. We want to develop our oligonucleotides to target this mutant repeat RNA. We want to be very rigorous in our preclinical studies. Obviously, we need to do additional experiments, namely to assess their delivery, duration of response, and safety. If we were awarded the $50,000 prize from the big competition, we would apply it towards adding to our team with someone that has expertise to conduct animal experiments. Thank you for your interest.
Judges, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned in your one pager that there are other oligonucleotide therapy candidates out there, and so it seems like the general approach isn't new, but that your particular compound is the superior one. That's the basic approach here.
Correct. I think it's not only the CUG repeat targeting aspect of our oligonucleotides, but also the chemistries involved. And our oligonucleotides have a locked nucleic acid chemistry, which is really good in terms of binding the intended target and its bioavailability.
Mm-hmm. Vinod, what's how do you look at oligotherapy versus gene therapy? There's a number of gene therapies in development in this indication. With oligos, you would have to do repeat dosing. With gene therapy, it's a single dose that's durable over time. So how do you think about that?
I see our company developing multiple products, and I think oligonucleotide delivery is very feasible, and we've demonstrated that we can knock down a target tissue in the corneal endothelium. But that may be our first product, but subsequent iterations of this technology will include gene therapy approaches, which is also covered in our intellectual property.
The oligo approach, what would be your dosing?
In Studies of oligonucleotides in central nervous disorders, very similar repeat disorders like myotonic dystrophy or Huntington's, retreat twice a year.
Okay. Clay, unfortunately, we can't hear you.
And what is the stability of this treatment? How often is that going to be administered? I just heard that you say twice a year for CNS, and I don't know if it's efficient actually for these 3 repeat that you mentioned. I don't know that it's been demonstrated to be efficient, but for the eye, how often would that be?
We anticipate treatments twice or thrice a year based on the data of other oligonucleotides targeting repeat expansion disorders in the CNS.
Okay. And that's been demonstrated to work.
Correct.
Any additional questions for Vinod? Clay, you may have to type your questions, unfortunately, because we were having a hard time hearing you. But there's no additional questions. Thank you, Vinod. And the judges, you guys really have a hard decision. We'd ask you guys to go to the deliberation room in order to pick the biotech track winner. Thank you, guys. That wraps up our UT Southwestern biotech track. So now it's time for the final track of the evening, the UT Dallas Research Commercialization track. They will be competing for $10,000 in Amazon Web Services credits. Again, a video marketing package from Zelia Productions and $100,000 for their startup. First, let's share a bit more about this track. Let's hear from Vice President of Research at UT Dallas, Dr. Joseph Pancrazio.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to be kicking off our inaugural Big Idea Competition Research Commercialization Track Competition. Our goal for this program is to incentivize the development of new ventures and industries that leverage our research advances at the university. I consider translation from the bench to the marketplace to be a promise realized for a Tier 1 research institution like UT Dallas. This competition represents a synergistic blend of sorts between 2 of our strategic goals, advancing research and becoming an economic engine for the region. Texas and the country deserves innovation and commercialization from its leading universities, and that's what we aim to deliver. This is, as I said, this is our first year for the research commercialization track, and I'm really proud to say that we had a terrific response from our university community. We had over 30 exciting and innovative ideas that were submitted, and now we have 3, just like in Highlander. We're down to 3, and each of them shares something in common, though. They all involve interdisciplinary biomedical sciences. This is a reflection of the exciting growth in recent years in biomedical engineering and sciences that we've witnessed here at UT Dallas. And I'm also very glad to say and proud to say that it affirms that UT Dallas is the home of faculty, staff, and students who have embraced an entrepreneurial perspective and ambition. So let's let the games begin.
Thank you. Let's meet our judges for the UT Dallas Research Commercialization track. First up, Daniel Kleinman. He is a senior associate at the Addy family office where he manages the venture investments with a primary focus on early stage healthcare, life science, deep tech, and B2B enterprise tech. He is passionate about supporting disruptive technologies that will fundamentally change the way we live. Next, we have Travis Whitfield. He is a partner at BIOS Partners, where he invests in early stage healthcare technologies that have potential to be transformative to healthcare. Travis focuses on business development and strategy, clinical development, due diligence, and deal sourcing and evaluation. He has a diverse background in the life sciences, ranging from biomolecular science to health services research. Dr. Shirkat Peterson is a global business development and strategy manager at healthcare for ABB. Shirkat is a technical leader who strives on developing innovative scientific solutions to deliver business needs. Prior to joining ABB, she served as principal scientist at Johnson & Johnson and a national advisory board member for the Association of American Medical Colleges. Jonathan Mandelbaum is a senior associate at OrbiMed. Jonathan is a former drug discovery scientist, passionate about building new biotech companies and developing innovative medicines to treat human disease. Welcome, judges. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Let's get started. First up, is Xnerve?
My name is Dr. Renneker. I am the co-founder of Xnerve. At Xnerve, we're developing the next generation solution for treating obstructive sleep apnea. So what is obstructive sleep apnea? It is a cessation of breathing that is caused by the soft tissue and tongue relaxing when you fall asleep. It falls backwards, blocking the airway. At Xnerve, we're focused on treating moderate to severe OSA, which means patients stop breathing greater than 15 times per hour. Beyond poor quality of sleep, OSA untreated is a serious health concern. It increases your risk of mortality and can result in a 2 times increase of having a stroke, a 5 times increased risk of having a heart attack. OSA is also an independent risk factor for hypertension and type 2 diabetes. OSA is a severe condition that should be treated. So how common is OSA? Well, over 60 million patients in the US and EU have moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea, and it needs treated today. What are the established treatment options? Continuous positive airway pressure uses pressurized air to force open the airway. These devices are uncomfortable to wear, cause nasal congestion and infections. CPAP is the gold standard for treating obstructive sleep apnea, but patients stop using it 30 to 60% of the time within a year. The mandibular advanced devices force the lower jaw forward to open up the airway. These devices can result in jaw pain, teeth displacement, nerve damage, and fractures. The third option that's available is invasive surgery to remove the soft tissue from the back of the throat. These procedures are painful, irreversible, and have long recovery times. They also have a low success rate. Many patients refuse these treatment options or stop using them altogether. The fourth and newest treatment is hypoglossal nerve stimulation. Well, hypoglossal nerve innervates the tongue, and when you electrically activate it, it causes the tongue to move forward to open up the airway. In 2014, Inspire Medical received FDA approval for the treatment of obstructive sleep apnea. They showed that hypoglossal nerve stimulation is a safe and effective treatment for OSA. They currently have reimbursement strategies set up with CPT codes. Inspire Medical today is worth $3.2 billion on the New York Stock Exchange. Hypoglossal nerve stimulation is the best option for patients refusing to use their CPAP machines. So what's the total addressable market for hypoglossal nerve stimulation? Well, 2 million patients each year are prescribed a CPAP machine. Of those, approximately 50% stop using those machines. And then according to Inspire's data, about 70% of those patients are viable candidates. That means 700,000 patients each year in the US are viable candidates for hypoglossal nerve stimulation. At a reimbursement rate of $20,000 per implant, that's a $14 billion per year market in the US alone. At Xnerve, we're developing the next generation solution for obstructive sleep apnea. We call our device the Revive system. It is the smallest hypoglossal nerve stimulation on the market or in development. It is 60 times smaller than the Inspire device. Our device has 3 FDA-approved IDEs for other indications, has a low cost of goods, Bluetooth connected, it has no battery, and it has no leads. We're also developing a consumer-level peripheral. This device uses RF power to power the implantable devices. It can independently control the left and right side of the tongue. It's comfortable to wear, and it monitors efficacy and compliance. So why would the patient select Xnerve over the Inspire device? Well, the Inspire device is 60 times larger. The Inspire device has 2 leads that tunnel from the ribs up to the battery and from the battery to the neck. 20% of the time, those leads will fail within 5 years, requiring an additional surgery. Our device, the Revive system, has no battery. The Inspire device has a battery that needs to be replaced every 5 to 7 years. Our device, the Revive system, is compatible with all standard MRI scanners. Patients and doctors can monitor efficacy real time with the Revive system. So why does the hospital select Xnerve? The Inspire device takes 3 hours to implant. The Xnerve device takes 1 hour to implant. And the hospital gets reimbursed $4,300 per surgery, irrespective of which device is implanted. Why do the doctors select Xnerve? Well, Xnerve is a better solution for the patient, and it takes 1/3 of the time to implant. What's our schedule of activities? We expect to have FDA approval for our first phase 1 trial in 18 months from the time of our funding. After that, we expect it to take us 12 months to complete that trial, at which time we'll start the pivotal trial. We expect to have FDA approval for a pre-market application by second quarter of 2025. What's the opportunity? It's a $14 billion market in the US alone. There's only one competitor in the market. Xnerve offers a better solution than the competition. It's a low-risk investment. We've used $8 million in non-diluting funding to get to this point. There's well-established reimbursement. And finally, our team has over 100 years of experience in the neuromodulation space. We've developed startup companies as well as run well-established medical device companies. technologies. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Rob. Judges, any questions?
Beyond obviously all of the advantages that you're proposing on, decreased, time for surgery, no battery, longer lasting. On the efficacy side of things, can you just elaborate more on kind of evidence to date based on how it works that you don't anticipate compromising?
Yeah,
efficacy?
so all you're doing is activating a nerve to move the muscle to pull the tongue forward, the hypoglossal nerve. In our animal studies that we've done to date, you activate no problem. The device is, it's a tiny little device, but it can be powered from up to 4 centimeters away and plus or minus 40 degrees. So efficacy should not be an issue. In our 6-month dog study, we saw very little encapsulation and we were able to recruit the nerves easily at 6 months. Our compliance voltage was about 3 volts. The system can do up to 12. So we do not anticipate any issues with being able to recruit those muscles.
Hi, I had 2 questions actually about your go-to-market strategy.
Sure.
The first was around, I think you're going to go to market to outpatient hospitals, but with over 6,000 hospitals in the U.S. and without an extensive sales force, how do you plan to go to market with hospitals and outpatient centers?
Yeah, that's going to be the last one of the big rounds after the A and B rounds. You're going to have to raise a C round to hire that sales force to push this out. So, the medical device field, that's just typically how it's done. So you would ramp up if you looked at our financial projections. You're going to go to $20-30 million a year sales force pretty quickly. So Nuvectra and a couple other companies that spun out recently saw the same thing, and you just got to ramp up quickly.
And then you share the incentive for the doctor, but how do you make your device accessible? Because what is the incentive for the insurance companies to switch over from partnering with Inspire Medical to your device?
So like I said, the Inspire device, the issues with it is it will require additional surgeries. Every 5 to 7 years, you're going to have a surgery to replace the battery. That will be expensive, and the insurance companies will have to cover that. If the leads break, 20% of the time every 5 years, you've got 2 leads. So you're going to probably have surgery every 2.5, 3 years to replace a lead. It's going to get expensive quickly for the insurance company. Because our device is glass encapsulated, it has no leads, no battery, it never needs to be replaced. Our accelerated age testing suggests it'll last 25 years without any issues. So for the insurance companies, it would be difficult for them not to see the benefit of our device.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob.
You're welcome.
Just a quick question around IP. Have you guys filed any patents on the device, and what does those capture?
Yeah, so we've got IP that's being persecuted for OSA specifically. We're doing an FTO right now, as well as putting stakes in the ground around the openings that are available to us. There is some IP on the implant device itself, but the technology tip is 50 years old or so, 40 years old for IPGs, and so it really comes down to strategizing to protect the OSA market, not the device itself per se.
On the clinical plan, do you plan on having a control arm with to show like non-inferiority to the Inspire device, or just go?
No, I mean, so when we've discussed this, the way Inspire did their clinical trial was they waited till 6 months because they had to try to titrate up slowly to get efficacy, because the patient couldn't take the current levels that were required to move the tongue. So we've got a strategy there that we think we can get faster. But at the end of that period, all the people that were responders, those are the ones that they went and looked at. So they had their clinical plan was a little bit advanced for the time, whereas Apnex failed their clinical trial because they include everybody. So ours, we will have a sham arm, but it'll probably be within person, because with our device, we can turn it on sham mode without the patient knowing, so we can do a double-blind randomized placebo-controlled. And because we're monitoring efficacy real time at night, we can actually have it on one night and off another night. So we're still discussing what that clinical trial will look like, but it will probably be with an in-subject control arm that we'll be using, which is not an arm, but within subject controls.
That's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob. We really appreciate it. Great job today.
Thank you.
So judges, don't forget to fill out your scorecards. Next up, we have Chandler Page with Doloromics.
Hi, my name is Chandler Page, and I'm the CEO of Doloromics.
I want you to think about the last time you felt intense pain, like a migraine or a toothache in the middle of the night that you couldn't get treated until the morning. Now imagine that's what you feel every day for months on end, and that's the experience of 100 million Americans that have chronic pain. But for many of those people, there are no effective treatments. The Advil or Tylenol that works for you doesn't work for most chronic pain patients. And to put some perspective on that number, that's roughly 1 out of every 3 Americans that suffers from pain. And there's a big question of why aren't better pain drugs making it to patients? And we believe there are 2 main reasons for this. So 1, all preclinical work is done in rodents, and mice and humans are different enough that what cures pain in mice doesn't always cure pain in humans. And 2, pharmaceutical companies have been performing genomic analysis for a long time, but have struggled to find new pain drugs using that data. Doloromics is solving these problems by performing all of our work in human tissue. Additionally, our patent approach analyzes genomic data in a new way to uncover small sets of genes underlying different types of pain. And we call this our interactome analysis. The way the interactome works is that when you are in pain, a small set of ligands interacts with receptors to tell your body what's happening. Each type of chronic pain has its own set of ligands that interact with receptors. For example, rheumatoid arthritis has a different set of interactions than migraine. And our patented interactome analysis finds these interactions. We will sell this analysis as 2 separate services to pharmaceutical companies. So A, as a way to identify drug targets. And this means we partner with pharmaceutical companies to help them decide which type of drug should be developed next. And we're able to start selling this service immediately. And then B, with the data we collect over time, we will have the power to identify biomarkers. And these biomarkers will help to determine which patients are most likely to respond to new drugs currently undergoing clinical trials, the time, money, and prevent patients from receiving a drug that was never going to work for them. The market for chronic pain pharmaceuticals has been growing and is expected to reach upwards of $70 billion by 2024. For each type of chronic pain a pharmaceutical company is interested in, they will purchase a separate analysis. So, for example, if a company wants to identify new drug targets for rheumatoid arthritis and also wants to identify new targets for migraine, they'll purchase 2 separate services from us. Each analysis takes about 3 weeks to complete and will be in the cost range of $12,000 per analysis. This will result in a profit of $6,000 per service. The progress we've made so far is due to our team, which has 30 combined years of experience in the research of neurobiology of pain. I'm the CEO and also currently wrapping up my PhD in neuroscience at UTD, where I'm an NIH Scholar and McDermott Fellow. Jackson is our CSO and also currently a PhD student at UTD, where he studies motor dysfunction and various types of neuronal diseases. Ted Price is our co-founder. Ted is a professor at UTD and co-founder of 3 other companies, one of which, Cerci Therapeutics, just sold to Acadia Pharmaceuticals. And Andy, who's a neuroscience PhD, is the inventor of the interactome. So far, we've established the interactome algorithm is fully functional. 2 provisional patents were filed in April of 2020. We have 2 publications on its use, one on numerous types of pain, and then one on identifying drug targets for possible COVID-19 treatments. Algernon Pharmaceuticals used our interactome findings as the reasoning behind proceeding into clinical trials with their novel COVID-19 treatment. Additionally, we are finalists for the Illumina Accelerator, and Illumina is the largest genomic sequencing company in the world. We are currently in discussion with 3 potential customers and believe we can make our first sale by the end of the year. In the spring of 2021, we'll begin expanding the use of our interactome algorithm and begin development of the biomarker test. Doloromics is using cutting-edge techniques to make developing pain drugs faster and more efficient. Our goal is to play a part in finding relief for 100 million Americans suffering every year and make chronic pain a thing of their past.
Thanks, Candler. Judges, do you have any questions?
I can start off. So I think that's very interesting, and thanks for that presentation. I'm curious if you can kind of tell me more about the business development kind of plan and discussions that you have. For example, I know a lot of these types of companies that have this really cool platform would do more like a business, like a joint development agreement with a pharma company where they would do discovery and therapeutic development. That would be on the order of $100 million and not $6,000. So can you kind of walk me through kind of your thought process, and have you explored like other type of deal structures beyond just the $12,000 cost?
Yeah, so the initial analysis service, what we imagine is like a long-term collaborative effort with pharmaceutical companies. The initial analysis service is really small on the cost front, but the drugs that they develop from our initial service, we would like to work with them long-term to be able to develop these biomarker tests that they would use to stratify patients in their clinical trials. And then if they're interested, they would be able to also take those biomarkers into clinic, but that's not where we plan to specialize. And the biomarker tests, we plan to be able to charge just for the development about $300,000 to $400,000 per test that we develop for them.
I had a quick question. With the opioid crisis and everything around sort of abuse of opioids for chronic disease, a lot of pharmaceutical companies are moving away from drug treatments and more toward these alternative devices in order to treat chronic pain. How will you create a sustainable business with this sort of shift within the market?
Yeah, so we understand that that shift is going on, but we're still getting a lot of interest in companies that are interested in finding non-addictive treatments. Another pattern that we've noticed is that they're more interested in very specific treatments for pain. So instead of finding this like all treatment type of drug, they're going into like migraine specific treatment or arthritis specific treatment and hoping to avoid the addictive side effects of drugs that way. So we understand that there's a little bit of, there's a transition away from drugs, but the companies that we're talking to right now are still very interested in what we're doing.
And then who owns the data, by the way, that you generate?
Who owns the data? So right now, the data that we're using is publicly available, so it's purchased. It was generated at UTD. Going forward, we plan to, like Doloromics will own the data that we start to generate.
Okay. Just heads up, I think this might be a problem for pharmaceutical companies. Doloromics owning the data versus the pharmaceutical company might want to own their own data.
So the way that the service works is that the pharmaceutical companies will allow us to, we'll have an NDA and we'll analyze, so we need two sets of data. We own human neuronal data, and then pharmaceutical companies don't generally have access to a lot of that, and they own like a disease state data. They will maintain ownership of their data, and we will have the other half that they'll need that they don't generally have access to.
Any additional questions for Candler?
Can you tell us a little bit more about your fundraising path forward and maybe key inflection points moving forward?
So fundraising path, and then I didn't hear the second half of the question.
The key inflection points that you guys are planning to hit as you scale.
Yeah, so we're planning in the early 2021 to do a seed round and raise about $500,000 there to get a little bit more sequencing done. And then going forward, our biggest fundraising points will be going to like biomarker test validation. And then in long term, we'll need to raise like additional money to keep building, but early seed fund next year.
Thank you. Awesome. Any last questions? Not? Thanks, Candler. Great job. We really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Next up, we have Benedict Voigt with Regulife Medical.
Hello, everyone. My name is Benedict Voigt, 2008 proud alumnus of UT Dallas and CFO of Regulife Medical. Regulife Medical is a bioelectronic medicine company, and we're focused on treating gastrointestinal diseases through the neural circuitry. What we have are three different approaches, one being a short-term wearable, a medium-term in-hospital, and a longer-term implantable to treat these disorders. Today, we're going to focus explicitly on this short-term wearable that's almost ready to go to market with your help. The problem at hand is that current medications are not working well enough for these GI disorders. You're familiar with these, I'm sure, dyspepsia, indigestion, GERD or acid reflux, and constipation. And while these are something that you might be personally familiar with, it's often a one-time issue. And there are actually millions of people that have this as a chronic issue, and they need a new solution. Regulife Medical already has a clinically proven treatment from our early prototypes that can be utilized in this manner. Treatment methods often you consider are on the molecular side and the biological side of taking a drug. Our approach is different from the bioelectronic side, in that we're stimulating the nervous system. The nervous system is connected to all the different components of the body, and essentially we're sending signals to the brain in order to operate these different systems and to relieve the pain. Our over-the-counter device uses transcutaneous electroacupuncture. Acupuncture is something you're probably familiar with, but you think about that in terms of injecting needles and poking yourself. What we're doing is we're stimulating the nerves also, but we're doing it in a way that doesn't require the needles, and it also doesn't require any of the cords, meaning that you're not hooked up to a hospital bed. Instead, it's a wearable device. It's like a wristband that you're familiar with, or maybe below the knee, and it's sending very precise signals into the body, and in doing so, it can then target and appropriately relieve the pain. This approach is validated by clinical data and trials already. The total addressable market for this is in the tens of billions in the US alone. GERD, so the acid reflux, over 44% of Americans have experienced these symptoms, and a third of those just in the last week alone. Dyspepsia and constipation also have huge portions of the population that are affected. And on the chronic side, it's still in the millions. And while there are solutions at hand, we're very excited about our approach, is because the current solutions out there are just simply inadequate. Nearly half of the users who take the biological, the pills, the PPI, for example, the purple pill you may have seen in advertisements, are simply insufficient. They are then required to go and take another pill, so they have multi-drug regimens, or maybe even get into surgery or antidepressants. From our perspective, what we can do then is utilize our decades worth of laboratory building and research and create these and expand upon these prototypes that are already in place. So over the next 12 months, with the appropriate funding, what we can do is validate and improve upon these Gen 1 devices that's using the heart rate variability, that's monitoring and confirming the proper device positioning. So when you're putting it on the wristband, it's precisely targeting the nerves. And by doing that, it's going to lead us to commercialization that can get us there in a very rapid time period, and it's going to build our brand recognition. That's important because we're already in process as well of a Gen 2 device. What this is doing is it's applying AI onto the Gen 1 device that's going to allow for higher automation and better stimulation and get us into a new position in the market that's untapped by anyone currently. The revenue forecast for us is very great in the sense that our devices are, again, over the counter. They're consumer purchasable, and they're very affordable. You don't need to go to your primary care physician. You don't need a prescription. Instead, you can simply go to your pharmacy or go online and purchase these for an affordable price. In doing so, our target is in the tens of millions of people, and even by a small percentage, even 1% of this market would exceed us in over 14 million in revenue in sales. Big Ideas Competition is important is that it's our jumpstart. This $100,000 in funding is critical for us to purchase the lab equipment and the materials to advance our Gen 1 studies and prototyping. And what's really exciting about it is we can immediately apply those prototypes into major multi-million National Institutes of Health funded grants. So essentially, your award of $100,000 translates into a study of nearly $5 million in science. Also, it allows us to continue our Gen 2 device development, and it's going to help tremendously as we do capital fundraising next year. The Regulife medical team has a strong and diverse background, both on the academic and medical side, as well as in the business side, from multiple institutions across the country. So overall, we're very excited about where this can take us. We know that this is an approach that is needed by the market and is something that we're uniquely able to provide. So we appreciate your consideration and look forward to any questions.
Thanks, Benedict. Judges, any question for Regulife?
Just curious, how much capital do you guys foresee you needing to get through sort of the regulatory path of FDA?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. It's a great question. For the first over-the-counter devices, we don't see a lot of those needs. So we are planning a $5 million Series A round mid next year. We've already started talking with VCs. Jay Pasricha, who's our lead gastroenterologist from Johns Hopkins, has had several successful startups in the past and is very well connected in the space. We've got human data that's come out of China from a study we ran at one of the universities there. And there was significant published data from papers back in 2016 and 2017 for GERD, gastroparesis, and others compared to PPI, to sham, and to other devices that showed statistical significance. And so for the next phase of devices, which are in-hospital devices, there'll be significant kind of 510K work that needs to be done there. No PMA for those. But for the over-the-counter devices, the FDA hit is very minimal.
Hey, Walter, is your go-to-market direct to consumer?
For the first phase of devices, it is, and that allows us to get some of these transformative technologies out to patients a lot faster. And so we've been working at this close to a decade. We were part of the largest consortium, the NIH Spark initiative, for looking at neuromodulation of the enteric nervous system that was run up at Purdue with Terry Powley and Peter Irizarry and other folks. And so there's a lot of really transformative technology with implications for diabetes, obesity, and a host of implantable, kind of like the stuff Rob was presenting. He's got some awesome technology and devices. And we're looking at some of those same things in the body in our roadmap. But to get to consumers very quickly, these over-the-counter wearable devices leverage our ability to wiretap the nervous system, taking a playbook out of the acupuncture community. A lot of people think acupuncture is sham science. It's not real. It's hokum. But what's happening is we're overstimulating nerves that are topologically located next to other nerves in the brain that connect to these areas of the gut, the stomach, the intestines. And by overstimulating regions on the arm and under the knee, we can hyperlocally overstimulate these cortical regions, which then have a profound impact on visceral peripheral nerves. And so we've mapped these targets. We found these targets, these published studies. Jay has helped elucidate these in his almost 30-year career in this space as one of the leading gastroenterologists. And we found a rock star CEO to come and run this, a guy named Arun. He wasn't allowed to present here because he's not a UTD alum like Benedict and I are. But he was one of the co-founders of Galvani Bioelectronics. This was the $1.5 billion Google GSK sort of joint venture that was looking at 4 key bioelectronics conditions. And so Arun was the co-founder, biology director of that company, helped build it to lead to a number of great clinical trials, and loved the startup phase. And Galvani is now off and running. And so we were thrilled to get Arun to come on. And so he's just wrapping up his time at Galvani and has joined the company. We're very early stage. We're just spinning out of UTD now. So we don't have revenues yet, but we have an exciting growth path with over-the-counter devices, hospital devices following. And over the next decade, we think we can make a transformative impact on diabetes and obesity by regulating the enteric nervous system correctly.
So Walter, how do you distinguish yourself on a shelf from a smaller company who may not have the science to back their data, have the data to back their device, but to a consumer, they're able to make the same claims that you are? How would you distinguish yourself on the shelf from another company who is able to make the same claims with you without the scientific data?
That's a great question. It's very difficult up front without spending a lot of money on branding and advertising. But at the end of the day, good science and results do win. And we're basing this on a tome. We've got 24 patents. 3 of them have been awarded. We've got more kind of in the hopper. And the results that we're getting and will continue to get, we think will be superior to other approaches on the market. We've got at UTD right now this $5 million AI grant where we're doing some cool work with DARPA. And we're planning on using some of these machine learning and recurrent convolutional neural networks to help take many electrodes and localize field effects to better interact with the nerves, to increasingly project the ability to better interact with the nervous system. And so at the beginning, the plan is not to spend a lot of money and do a brand blitz and just get the market, but it's to build a great product that helps consumers and helps customers. And we think that will build over time. We've got a lot of credibility with some of the top researchers, NIH and DARPA funded across the country. Arun is a rock star that's going to come and help us do this. And we think that is the winning strategy. But if you want to give us a bunch of money to do the branding strategy, we're happy to listen.
So judges, we have time for one additional question.
Yeah, I'll ask a question then. Yeah, real quick on your the clinical data that you mentioned, is that with your device or is it with a different device? And if it's different, how does your IP work in staking out some IP around that?
That's a great question, Travis. The clinical device is a prototype device that's a simple 2-electrode device that doesn't use a lot of the sophisticated thin film bioelectronics technology that my lab has developed, but it does rely on some of the IP coming out of the Pasricha lab at Johns Hopkins and what Jiande Chen has done. And so we do have a little bit of protection there on some of the pathways and the methodologies, but not on the device itself. And as that shifts over to these AI-driven thin film multi-electrode devices, That's where a lot of the really strong IP and better interacting with the enteric nervous system comes to play. And those are also the Gen 2 and future devices that we think will have a profound impact on patients.
Thanks, Walter.
Thanks.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Judges,
guys.
thank you. So judges, we will ask that you go to the deliberation room and tally the votes. So while the judges are deliberating and choosing the winner for each track, we're going to invite some special guests onto the stage. First, please welcome the Dean of the School of Engineering and Computer Science at UT Dallas, Dr. Stephanie Adams.
Thank you very much. I'm so honored to be here today with you all to talk about entrepreneurship and to hear some of the new ideas and to celebrate the accomplishments of the citizens of the University of Texas at Dallas. And also it's my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker today, Mr. Mark Cuban. I wanted to just say a few words about Mark. Mark and I haven't actually had a chance to meet yet, and I'm very much looking forward to it. He's been an incredible supporter of the University of Texas at Dallas. He's also been a supporter of the Johnson School at the University of Texas at Dallas, and he's also supported our UT Southwestern partners, particularly during this pandemic season. Both he and members of his organization have offered support for our first responders so that they can have childcare and other support that they may need during this time. So as I prepare to introduce someone who really needs no introduction, I think he's probably one of the most well-known people on the planet, but you know him as the often outspoken owner of the Dallas Mavericks and a shark on the critically acclaimed show Shark Tank, Mr. Mark Cuban. But what you may not know is his support for education, his commitment to diversity, his desire to create opportunities for those less fortunate, and as I've already briefly described, his unwavering support of the Eric Johnson School of Engineering and Computer Science and the University of Texas at Dallas. Mark also serves as honorary member of the UTD Johnson School Executive Council, and the Mark Cuban Foundation has supported our computer science outreach camps and partnered with UT Dallas, Microsoft, to host some artificial intelligence camps for students from low-income areas across Texas. As I prepared to introduce Mark today, I read almost everything I could find about him, and what I found is that he and I actually have a lot in common. We both started businesses at 12. Mine were a paper route and a babysitting service, while he sold garbage bags door to door. I'd love to know a little bit more about that. We both have ties to the state of Indiana. We were both bartenders at some point in time. We both love sports. We're both competitive. We're both passionate about education and champions for diversity and equity. So then I asked myself, how come I'm not the billionaire? Instead, I followed my passion for education while he went on to head one of the most successful companies in the world, the Mark Cuban Company, a parent organization that's home to countless businesses. And Mark continues to give back. As I said, not only does he support part of us for AI camps here in Dallas, but he also supports AI boot camps for low-income high schoolers in cities such as El Paso, Chicago, Omaha, and Detroit. These are boot camps that a number of our ECS faculty and students support. My takeaway has been, I should have been more entrepreneurial. I wish there had been a big idea competition when I was in college. I had so many ideas for companies. There was Ford Motion, the travel agency that was going to specialize in spring break trips for students. There was the club called The Closet that I never opened. And some days I find myself searching for the one idea, the thing that I could create that could be produced inexpensively that 1 million people would pay $1 for. Well, while I wait for it, I simply just watch Shark Tank. And I sit in awe of Mr. Cuban and the other sharks. Such quick studies, such passion, such fire in their bellies. For example, a rerun of episode 24 from season 9 aired last week. And in that episode, a Princeton grad pitched something called Thrive Plus. Best I could tell, it was a pill to minimize hangovers. And Mr. Cuban just went in with a number of questions about the science, and more so about the science than it was about the business acumen of what was being proposed. And I found myself wanting to ask him so many questions. You were so insistent on challenging the science. What gave you the chutzpah to do that? Oftentimes people are so, they think that they can only ask questions if they have expertise in that background. And clearly that was not the case for you. And why was it so important on the front end to understand the science. And I wonder, do you ever regret on passing on a deal? For many of you who know me, you know I love quotes, and two of Mr. Cuban's stuck with me, and I'll be using them as I go forward in life. One of them was, it doesn't matter how many times you fail, you only have to be right once, and then everyone can tell you that you're an overnight success. And the second one was, always wake up with a smile, knowing that today you're going to have fun accomplishing what others were too afraid to do. Mr. Cuban, from the outside, you're definitely someone who wakes up smiling, who appears to be having fun, and we're delighted to have you as our keynote speaker for this year's UTD Big Idea Competition. So at this point, I'd like to welcome Mr. Mark Cuban to join me here online.
Thank you, Stephanie. I knew we were twins and we grew up exactly the same, but I just didn't know how close it was. And I got to say that when you talked about the closet I never opened as a business, I was like, what a great name. What a great idea. I'll put in my dollar, and now all you need is 999,999 more people to do the same, and we're set.
Well, thank you for that encouragement. In my spare time, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, I'm sure you have so much spare time. And you know what? I'll start off by answering your question, Stephanie, on Shark Tank, which, by the way, is Friday nights on ABC. You know, when people come on there and pitch, in real life, those deals can go on for 60, 90 minutes. And it really, really gets intense. But one of the things that's always important to me, when someone comes on and makes a claim, because there are millions and millions and millions of people that are going to be watching this worldwide, as a matter of fact, I don't want people to watch this and then immediately go to their website and buy it if I think it's questionable. And I don't have to know the science, and this applies to all businesses that I look at, and when anybody evaluates a business proposition, I don't necessarily have to know all the science to ask basic questions to see if they know their science, you know, and to know if they took steps to get qualifiers or get support from external sources. Because what typically happens, and this happens in a lot of pitches, they'll reference some sort of research study that wasn't specific to what they're doing, like a hangover cure. They'll say that this ingredient, I'm making this up, magnesium has been proven to do A, B, and C. Well, that doesn't mean magnesium being proven to do A, B, and C will do D, E, and F as a hangover cure. And so I always try to make sure that I question these folks because, you know, they misuse science. And to me, that's really wrong. And they make claims that can be misleading and even injurious. And to me, that's really wrong. So when you see someone come on Shark Tank with a supplement pitch, my eyes light up because I get really, really excited to question them because, you know, as an entrepreneur, that's part of what we do. We question, right? We question, why are we doing it this way? We question, why aren't we doing it a different way? You know, why isn't there a better way? You know, I like to use Elon Musk as an example. You know, when I sat in a Tesla for the first time, and all of a sudden there were all these things that were happening automatically. You know, it went to presets. You know, there was digital technology throughout the console. You know, I could do all these different things. It automatically raised or lowered the height of the car. You know, when I approached it, the door handles automatically popped out, and I don't need to carry my keys. All these little things that made the experience so much simpler. And to me, that's what great entrepreneurs do. You know, Jeff Bezos calls it, you know, the first day. You know, you have to look at your business or look at the company that you're starting and ask yourself, if this is my first day in creating this company, how would I approach things? How would I do things? If I were going to recreate this industry, how would I start? Because way too often, we as entrepreneurs get caught up and we get confused between what's a feature and what's a product. You know, are we doing something that's just a little bit better that can be incorporated somewhere else? Or is this a reason to do things completely differently? So, you know, with that as a starter, I wanted to talk just a little bit about just the entrepreneurial approach that I take. And then we can open up for questions because I know no one wants to hear me blather on for 30 minutes. You know, as an entrepreneur, Steve Jobs, you said you like quotes, Stephanie. One of my favorite quotes is that Steve Jobs brought up. He said everything's a remix. And that really stuck with me way back when, because I'm somebody who really likes to learn. My friends, my family would call me a sponge because I just love to read. I like to watch whatever I can that educates me. And the more I do that, the more exposure I get to different things. And as entrepreneurs, that's really what we want to do. We want to get exposed to as many different things as we can to get to the point where we say, wow, I think I can do this in a different way. Because that's what being an entrepreneur is all about. Doing something in a way that solves a problem or makes people realize that you're giving them a product or service that they now know that they need because of you. And that's where I always got started. So I'll give you the perfect example. When I was in my 20s, I was working for a software store. And it was in Dallas and Oakland. It was one of the first retail PC software stores in Dallas. And when people would come in, they really didn't know what that software, what they wanted, right? Because PCs were new. And so I had to take the time to understand all these different pieces of PC software. And then I had to take the time to learn about the businesses of my potential customers and try to make the two interlock. And as I was doing that and getting smarter and learning these things, I realized that when it comes to technology, that there are basically two types of people in the world. There are the people who created the technology, and then there's everybody else. And when it came to learning new software, technology, whatever it may be, that if I put in more time than all the other people, I might not be able to catch up to the inventor of the software, the developer of the software, the inventor of the technology. But if I work real hard, I can get real close. And if I did that on a lot of different elements of that technology, because everything's a remix, I'm going to be able to put things together in a different way and maybe create something that allows me to create a new product. And so fast forward 9 months into my career as a software salesperson, I got fired. This was a retail store, and some of my responsibilities were opening up the retail shop, cleaning the windows and sweeping the floor and make sure we were open on time. And one day I had a customer who wanted to close a deal. And to give you some context of how important that deal was to me, I was living in the Village, and if you know, a big apartment complex in Dallas, living 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment. I didn't have a bed. I didn't have a room. I didn't have a closet. I had a pile. And so for me to close this deal meant I can move out of the Hill Hotel. That's what we called this mess we lived in, because I was going to make a $1,500 commission, which was more than I had made, in a year plus. And so I made the executive decision to go out and close that deal, thinking when I picked up the check and I took it back to my boss, he would say, "Oh, great," because I knew the store needed the business. Fired me on the spot. And so there I was. And you talk about everything being a remix. I started to realize that these companies that were coming to me didn't know what to ask for. But if I started going to them and took the time to understand their businesses, I could proactively present to them the things that could give them a competitive advantage and use this new technology called PCs. It's crazy to think about it now, but there was a time when PCs were new. There was a time when spreadsheets cost $495. And I took that education and I went to my very first customer. And it is a company called Architectural Lighting. And I told him, I said, "Look, I'm sleeping on the floor. I'm broke. I have nothing, but I know I can help you. And if you'll front me the $500 to buy the software that I need to sell to you, that you need as a company, I promise you that I'll make it work. And if I can, I'll walk your dog. I'll wash your car. It doesn't matter." Long story short, they fronted me the money to buy the software. It worked. That turned in more and more customers. But every step of the way, what I really tried to push for was to use that, the people who's created and everybody else, and really learn and really take that knowledge. And very quickly, I was able to realize that there was nobody out there connecting PCs together in local area networks. Again, no big deal today, but that I remember walking into companies and saying, let's connect these together. You connect your printer, this and that. They're like, why do I need to do that? Things that are commonplace. And since then, the many, many years since then, that whole process hasn't really changed. The technology evolves, and we know with certainty that there's going to be new changes and new technology. But the point being, if you have any entrepreneurial desires at all, once you make the effort to learn, once you make the effort to keep up, and you keep on pushing forward with that knowledge and learning more and more, and you start exposing yourself to different businesses and different opportunities, that entrepreneur in you can come out. And that opportunity to create a business will be there in front of you. And a lot of people ask, well, how would I know? Trust me, you know. You see something and you say, wow, I can do it not just better, but much better. Or I can do it differently and change the game. That's always the biggest thing that gets the best results. But then you have to ask yourself, are you prepared to do that? And when you see the opportunity and you know the industry, you know the technology, you know the opportunity, that's when you start to really get that confidence. And that's when it's time to start and go. And look, there's going to be times when you see there's an opportunity and you're not quite sure how to get there. And you have to try to determine if you can figure it out. Going back, it's been 25 years now. When I was about 10, no, just kidding. 25 years ago, I remember sitting with my friend Todd Wagner, and we were in California Pizza Kitchen. And he was talking about, it would be great. I went to Indiana University. If we can listen to Indiana basketball over this new thing called the internet. And I'm like, that's a really good idea. And literally, it was at that moment we decided to create the streaming industry. Because the internet was so nascent, nobody was there were some little experimental educational things, but as a business, nobody was putting audio over the internet. And so in the second bedroom of my house on an old Packard Bell computer, we started figuring out how to use Sun file formats, FTS, all these different things to try to transfer audio. But more importantly, we figured out how to turn it into a business and started going out there and getting all these radio stations. And then we added video and TV stations and turned that into a company that went public, that we sold. And that literally was the start of the streaming industry. And the point being that, it wasn't like I planned, hey, let's do something called streaming, because it wasn't even called streaming then. But when you see an opportunity, if you then realize that if you put in the work, you can fulfill that opportunity and turn it into a company, amazing things can happen. So I want all of you that have that entrepreneurial edge, you can make it happen. And you'll know when you're prepared, when that preparation, that knowledge meets that opportunity that you have, you're going to get that feeling in your stomach. And anybody who's thought about starting a company has gotten it. You have that idea, and then you go online and you do a search and you think, oh, nobody's done this before. This must be a great idea. Then you talk to your friends or family or colleagues and they say, oh, that's a good idea. And then you have to make that decision. Should I start that company? What do I do next? And that next always starts with that first step. And you have to ask yourself, why not me? Why can't I be the one to create this company? Why can't I be the one to be successful? And you just never know until you try. Typically, the only thing that can hold you back, and I'll add one more thing and then I'll go to questions. Often, particularly today, people think, well, if I'm starting a business, I have to go to raise money. No. Raising money is not an accomplishment. Raising money is an obligation. You go on Shark Tank, you think after we write them a check, or you watch Shark Tank, you think after we write them a check, we just say, take the money, go do whatever you want? No. We want a return on our investment. The best businesses are the ones started with sweat equity. Now you have to work a little bit harder typically. You have to be a little bit more original and creative and agile. But you know what? The reality, Stephanie asked a question, why is she not a billionaire and why am I? I'm sure Stephanie's on her way and close. But one of the reasons I was able to get to this crazy level is that I was able to retain, when we talked about that starting that streaming company, I was able to retain my equity because we started cheap. We started really, really cheap, and literally taking the PC I had in the second bedroom of my house and trying to figure out from there. We didn't raise money until after we got big, and we didn't have to sell much of the company. So if you can find a way to start with your sweat equity, the upside is always so much bigger, and the reward is just so much greater. So with that, I see I've got a bunch of questions, and let me go through them. How would we try to follow them? Okay, so what is the best advice for young first-time entrepreneurs? Like Stephanie, I started my first business when I was 12, and it was selling garbage bags door to door. Alexa, off. Ambient voice. And my first company was selling garbage bags door to door. Now, how does a kid sell garbage bags door to door, and how does that come to fruition? That's a longer story. But what I learned was when you're 12 years old and you walk up to your neighbor's house and you say, "Hi, I'm your neighbor, Mark. Do you use garbage bags? Would you like to buy 100 garbage bags from me for $6? They cost me $3. I'll deliver them every week, or whenever you call me, I'll just show up with your garbage bags." Imagine a 12-year-old version of this. Who's going to say no? And the same applies for any young entrepreneur. You know, you have a couple advantages when you're young. One, you don't know what you don't know. Two, people want to do business with you. They want to support young entrepreneurs. Three, you've got all the time in the world, particularly hopefully in the summers, you know, on weekends. So you have the time to try to start things. Four, you can try any number of different things. You know, I had somebody come up to me one day and say, "Oh, we watched Shark Tank, and, you know, my family, my kids in particular, they love watching Shark Tank. And by the way, we learned so much from you that my daughter, I think it was, started a slime business." I'm like, and I knew what slime is because my son was 9 at the time. He's 11 now. And like, you sold slime, or he sold slime? And she was like, "Yeah, we've sold $100,000 worth of slime." I'm like, how does any kid, and, you know, 11, 12-year-old kid sell $100,000 worth of slime? They made slime, and they went to their neighbors, and they sold it. And that's no different than any product or service idea that you come up with. Whether I had somebody that just emailed me the other day. They live in Canada, where it snows a lot where they're at. And he said, "Mark, I watched Shark Tank, and I started off with a route where I went to people and I said, for $500, I'll shovel your snow every time. I'll shovel the snow in your driveway every time it snows. Not just one time, like $10 or $20 to shovel. No, $500 for the whole winter, whenever that was for them, and I'll make sure your driveway is shoveled." He started getting people say yes, 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 yes. I mean, this is, you know, late teenage, you know, 18, 19-year-old kid. And by the end of the first winter, he said he had like 5,000 people signed up. By the end of his fourth or fifth, I don't remember which winter it was, literally, this is the honest to goodness truth. He just, he sent me a follow-up, $40 million in sales and receipts. Now, that's a lot of driveways to shovel, and he actually created a whole service with a whole slew of people, including some robotics, where it made it easier. So he knew how to measure the depth of the snow, and he already knew the size of the driveway and sidewalk. And so he knew he could calculate what type of device would best work where. Excuse me. Now he has this crazy business, and he was asking me advice on how to expand it into other markets. He was only in one market in Canada. Now, obviously, it was a bigger city, but imagine that. Seriously. Starting off with the idea of not just shoveling driveways like everybody's always done for generations, but charging a one-time fee for the entire winter, and then figuring out over the course of several winters how to make money, and then turn it into an enormous business and make a ton of money. I mean, it was the craziest thing I ever read. It made me realize I wasn't as smart a 12-year-old as I thought I was, but it was just crazy. And the moral of the story is there are so many great ideas out there, so many. It doesn't matter how old you are. And the most valuable thing you have to sell is your ingenuity and your time. And if you're able to find a way to sell your time for more than you think it's worth, you're going to find a way to be successful. And so if somebody can start off with a shoveling a driveway business and turn it into $40 million in sales and deposits, who knows what you can do? So that's one great example. Next question is, how should we tackle the problem of hiring a good team? In a nutshell, you want to hire slow and fire fast. Very, very often we get caught up, particularly as a company is growing, and we try to rush in hiring. And on one hand, we'll find a hole that we have, and we think, well, we'll just hire somebody, and because we'll think that they're the best at doing this, that person will be really great at their job, and all our problems will be solved. It just doesn't work that way. The way I try to hire a good team, and look, I've done it right and I've done it wrong, so I've learned a lot from my mistakes, is early on in a business, I always try to get somebody that I trust, that will come in and work at a price that I can afford, but will work very closely with me, and try to get a sense of how good that person will be for the company. Because if you only have yourself or 2 or 5 or 10 employees, then you anticipate growing, you want to start building what I call bench strength. You want to bring somebody in that you can trust and train. And you don't want to just bring in the first person that but you want to go through a whole realm of people. And you want to make sure that there's 2 things for sure in that first person that you hired that you potentially want to grow into a management position. Number 1, they're smarter than you. And number 2, they're nothing like you. I'm kind of a ready, fire, aim person. If you see behind me, it's a little bit sloppy. I always try to hire somebody that's really anal, really persnickety, really, precise in everything they do and detail oriented, because obviously I'm not. And in doing so, sometimes you still make mistakes, but if when you make a mistake, you cut that mistake quickly, because sometimes we'll hold on too long to somebody we hire, then you get one person that you can start delegating to. And then if you do that same thing over again as you're growing, then you get another person. And so then you start developing a team of people that you trust, that you can delegate greater and greater responsibility. So that's one thing for growing companies. The second thing is, if you've got a larger organization, there's a couple things you have to be, particularly now during this pandemic. You got to be honest. You can't spin a pandemic, no matter how good a spin master you are. So you have to, you have to admit, like I have, like we all are, that we're afraid, that we're uncertain. You have to be authentic. You can't try to be somebody that you're not. You have to listen, because everybody's afraid. And when you listen to the people that work for you, during a pandemic, and you hear their fears, or during great times, because they're closest to your customers more often than not, and they're hearing and seeing things that you don't. But when you listen from the bottom up, you learn so many things and get so many ideas, because you hear from people who are in different communities than you belong to, that look differently than you, that sound differently than you, that they're going to tell you things that are not intuitive to you. And so by listening, then great things happen. And then finally, every entrepreneur, every CEO has got to have a vision for their company, and where you want the company to be, how you want it to get there. But you also have to be able to convey that vision to those people in a manner that coincides and aligns with their personal goals. And it may be, if you're 1,000 people working that way with your managers, or 1 tier deep or 2 tiers deep, and conveying to them how to do the same thing, or if you're a 20-person company doing this individually. But when your vision and talking to the people that work for you align, and you understand what their personal goals are, and you can make their personal goals, or find a way for your vision to align with their personal goals, that's when the magic happens. That's when everybody's on the same page and understands why you're doing what you're doing, and why you're trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And that's how every business that I've had that's grown has grown dramatically. And the businesses where I've had challenges, that's been where there's been a lack of alignment, and that's where we've really run into trouble. Let's see what else we got here. What have I actively done to lift entrepreneurs from minority populations comes in? That's a great question. And there's really 2 parts to that. I've invested in VCs that are people of color. I've invested in CEOs. I've invested in a lot of different companies because it's important to me. And if you want to see, we actually have them listed. If you go to markcuban.com, I list, minority-owned, women-owned, military-owned or operated. And so because that's important to me. But part two to this is, one of the best ways to find opportunity is to go and look where other people are not. And it's an absolute fact that, people in disadvantaged communities aren't being scouted, if you will. They're not in a position where they're working with entrepreneurs or being mentored or have access to financial education or business education as much as in privileged communities. And while that's a problem, and we certainly need to improve the education and business education and secondary and post-secondary education opportunities like UTD is doing quite a bit of, we also need to start looking and talking to people and finding out ways, not necessarily to have them fit into our models, but to look for ways that they can sell within the communities that they're in. I don't know. I literally have never, this guy who shovels snow, I don't know if he's white, black, orange, or yellow, but I know that he sold to his community first. There's another gentleman that came on Shark Tank, Noel Doherty, and he has a product called Twisted Up. For African Americans, they'll know what a natural is, and to fix up your natural, they've historically used sponges. Well, Noel came up with a thing that looks like a little tennis racket that allows you to twist up your natural, and he started selling these things at $29.95 and sold them in his community, grew enough to come on Shark Tank. Now he's killing it. He's got influencers, he's online, he's on social media, and his product, he's sold millions of dollars worth, and it's been a great investment for me. And now he's taken the money that he's made and is investing in minority entrepreneurs as well. And the point there is, too often we say, okay, well, let's send money there and find somebody people will come to us that are from disadvantaged communities that have these ideas, and they'll try to step into our world and sell and that's really a terrible thing to say, in our world, but step out of their community and try to fit into the way that the VCs have set things up. And these traditional VCs, angel and seed investors, isn't designed to work with people that aren't doing business plans like all the other thousands and millions of business plans we've already seen. What the greater opportunity, like Noel, like this gentleman with the snow, the shoveling, is to go into their communities and help them build businesses there, because there's so many more things that can happen there. And by working with them and mentoring them and accelerating those businesses, they can grow those businesses, get a lot of great business experience, and then expand into something else or invest into other people in that community, just like Noel did. And to me, building from the bottom up or building from the community up really is going to have more of an impact than trying to get all these people to create business plans and come into a traditional VC or investment environment, because there's so many, the way that world tries to evaluate businesses versus the people that are trying to create the businesses, there's so many disconnects. And that's why there's so much, so little investment in people of color. And it's really unfortunate, but I think we need to help them. We need to help people build businesses in those disadvantaged communities, mentor them as they grow those businesses, because teaching is such a great experience so building those businesses is such a great teacher and experience, then they can grow and go from there. So that's a long-winded answer to a great and complicated question. So next question was on esports. Your question was, with COVID-19 and work from home being in our foreseeable future, hopefully not too far into the foreseeable future, has your opinion on investing in esports changed? The industry has been thriving in 2020. Well, I'm going to disagree with you. I'm a fan of esports. I think it's a real sport. I tried to play League of Legends. I suck, but it's hard. and it takes manual dexterity. It's 5-level chess, and it happens in milliseconds. But at the same time, as a business, I think people conflate what's happening in Asia and the rest of the world versus what they hope to have happen here in the United States. Here in the United States, esports participation is growing, but the business of esports teams has kind of evolved from being about the esports to being about brands. So when you look at Fnatic, when you look at FaZe Clan, and you look at what they're doing, you know about Banks, you know about Rug, you know about all the different people on there, and they're all brands. But when you look at their teams really are just a platform to enhance their brands, enhance their merchandise sales, enhance their sponsorships. The actual team operation as an esport isn't doing all that good. So that's one problem I've had. The second problem that I hate when it comes to esports is messing with the meta, right? Imagine if in basketball, if all of a sudden, 10 games into the season, we changed the rules. And it made the rules change were so dramatic that instead of Luka being a great point guard, Luka had to do A, B, and C, and that just made it so he wasn't effective at what he was doing. And now Luka has to practice 10 hours a day just to learn all the meta changes to try to be great at basketball. Not that Luka wouldn't be great at everything, but those are the types of things that happen in esports. And to me, that creates a real challenge for the industry. And then finally, the fact that the publishers control everything and they can change the rules whenever they want and change the sport, that makes it more difficult as well. So while I think esports on a macro basis will grow based off of participation, I'm not sold that teams are a good business. All right, let's do one or two more. What is my most fabulous failure that may have turned later into a success? So there's a company called Uber, and the founder was a guy named Travis Kalanick, who had a company called Red Swoosh. Guess who the investor was in Red Swoosh? Guess who his mentor was? Guess who helped him build Red Swoosh? And though he gets credit for making the sale, he did sell the company. And a couple years later, I get an email from Travis, hey, I've got this thing called Uber Cab. What do you think? And I'm like, it's a great idea. I love it. You're going to have problems with the taxi cab commissions. And I went all Shark Tank on him. And I said, your valuation's too high. Come back to me and with something more reasonable. Never came back to me. I could have been one of the first 3 investors in Uber. It happens. Stuff happens. Right? You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. It's okay. Okay, one more. And then what's my outlooks for startups and entrepreneurship in 2021? Phenomenal, right? Personally, I'm a big believer in the vaccine. I know some people associated with it. They're very confident in that. And so I think as we get into spring and then summer, the snapback of people wanting to go outside and do things is going to be off the charts incredible. And there's going to be a whole lot of people who come up with great ideas, better ways to respond to the circumstances in the pandemic, better ways to work from home, better digital approaches to everything that we're doing online with the increased demand online, and better live events approaches as we snap back with the vaccine. And because of all those things, I think when we look back in 10 years, when we look back at the pandemic of 2020, we're going to realize that there were 5, 10, 20 world-class companies, if not more, that were created during that pandemic because someone had ideas that they came up with. Probably somebody from UTD. So UTD, thank you for having me on. RA, I'm going to toss it back to you. Take over from here. Thank you, everybody.
I appreciate it, Mark. My daughter just wandered down after virtual school and saw who was talking on the screen. And she was like, you didn't tell me you knew Mark Cuban. And I said, I actually don't. But I'm enjoying the talk just like everyone else. We're big fans of Shark Tank and big fans of what you've been able to accomplish here in Dallas. So thank you for the time today. The judges have finished deliberating and have selected the winners. So to announce the winners of the student track, I'd like to welcome Associate Dean of External Affairs at the Jindal School of Management, Dr. Diane McNulty. Diane?
Good afternoon. We are honored to be with you. I want to thank all the guests faculty, students, friends of Blackstone Launchpad and our entrepreneurship program for all the time and effort that they have put in to making this afternoon a success. The team here in Blackstone is just wonderful, and this contest has become such a highlight of every fall. It seems to me like we have grown so much since the first year, which I remember with excitement, that I hope it continues to grow and our students continue to prosper in their entrepreneurial ventures. Now, after much deliberation, the judges have selected the winning team for the student competition. Congratulations. And the winner is...
Congratulations to Glaucoma. This is awesome. Next up, let's hear from UT Dallas Seed Fund to announce the winner of the Alumni Track.
Hi, we're the Fall 2020 UTD Seed Fund team, and we would like to congratulate each of the participants this fall who are on their way to building great businesses. We would like to thank UTD, the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and the mentors for allowing us to participate in such a unique program. It's opened up our eyes to new career opportunities with both venture firms and startups. And now, what we've been waiting for all semester. Seed Fund, can I get a drum roll, please? The winner of the 2020 Big Idea Alumni Track is...
Lazarus 3D. Thank you, Seed Fund. Congratulations to Lazarus 3D. Very, very cool technology. Very interesting to see that a lot of the life science companies are getting some love here, so congratulations. Next up, let's hear from George Goodnow to announce the winners of the UT Southwestern Biotech Track.
What an amazing afternoon. The ideas and technologies presented here today have been incredible, and I know the judges had a difficult task choosing the winners in each track. After much deliberations, they have come to a decision. The second place winner will receive IP services from UT Southwestern and $12,500. And the second place winner of the UT Southwestern Biotech Plus track is...
Congratulations, Dr. Yang-Shi. Thank you, George. And now for the first place winner.
The grand prize winner will receive IP services from UT Southwestern, a marketing video package from Zelia Productions, and $50,000. And the grand prize winner of the UT Southwestern Biotech Plus track is...
Dr. Vinod Mutta for his oligonucleotide therapy for Fuchs endothelial corneal dystrophy. Congratulations to both of the winners. And thank you, George. And finally, let's hear from Steve Ginrich to announce the winners of the UT Dallas Research Commercialization Track. Steve?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Ginrich, Associate VP of Innovation and Commercialization for the Office of Research at UT Dallas. And as Dr. Joe Pancrazio mentioned to you earlier, we are excited to bring the Research Commercialization Track to the Big Idea competition this year and further support advancing research from the bench to the marketplace. You have witnessed, as everyone has, 3 incredible teams who presented their groundbreaking projects today. But in the spirit of competition, there can only be one winner. The judges have made their decision, and the winner of the Big Idea Competition 2020 Research Commercialization Track is...
Xnerve. Congratulations to the Xnerve team. Very, very cool technology. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be with you today. Now to close out the 2020 Big Idea Competition, let's hear some closing words from Joshua Baer, the founder and CEO of Capital Factory.
Howdy, I'm Josh Baer, the founder and CEO of Capital Factory. We're the most active early stage investors in Texas, and we love investing in Dallas startups, especially UT Dallas alumni. The Texas talent pipeline is a huge part of what makes our state so great for business and entrepreneurship. Our great universities like UT Dallas and UT Southwestern provide the foundation for that talent pipeline, as well as innovative ideas and research. That's why it's an honor and pleasure to be part of the Big Idea competition, and for it to be part of the Texas Startups Roadshow during Global Entrepreneurship Week. Thank you, RA, for being an incredible MC today, and thank you to UT Dallas, UT Southwestern, Lyda Hill Philanthropies, and Cisco. And of course, thank you to Mark Cuban, Dr. Stephanie Adams, George Goodnow, Claire Aldridge, and Steve Gingrich, and everyone who made the Big Idea competition possible this year. Congratulations to all the winners today and everyone who competed. We'll see you next year.